Alrighty, welcome to episode 111 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. At the 2022 AI Day, Tesla has revealed the latest details of last year's announced Optimus humanoid robot concept. Initially demonstrating a walking development platform made from off-the-shelf components, Tesla then revealed a current iteration made with wholly custom-made Tesla components, including specially designed actuators and drivers. When asked how much the robot would cost and when deliveries would commence, Elon Musk replied that he expected it to cost less than US $20,000 and be available in 3 to 5 years. Further revelations at Tesla's 2022 AI Day included significant improvements made to the Tesla FSD programming stack through an increasing proportion of neural networks that have been trained with petabytes of real-life and simulated video footage, moderated through automatic labeling generated by one of the world's largest GPU stacks. Tesla then went on to describe advances in Dojo, which with a mere 4 cabinets can replace their current 72 GPU racks used in auto labeling. Furthermore, Tesla plans to commission their first Exapod comprising 10 Dojo cabinets by Q1 2023, which will eventually expand to 7 Exapods in the future. In response to a question posed during AI Day, Elon Musk stated he expected FSD Beta would be ready for worldwide release by the end of the year, pending relevant national regulatory approvals. Tesla has released record quarterly production and delivery results for Q3 of 365,923 and 343,830 respectively. Although the 22,000 delivery deficit is an all-time record for Tesla, it outlined why this occurred with the following explanation. Historically, our delivery volumes have skewed towards the end of each quarter due to regional batch building of cars. As our production volumes continue to grow, it is becoming increasingly challenging to secure vehicle transportation capacity and to do so at a reasonable cost during these peak logistics weeks. In Q3, we began transitioning to a more even regional mix of vehicle builds each week, which led to an increase in cars in transit at the end of the quarter. These cars have been ordered and will be delivered to customers upon arrival at their destination. The press release also announced that Tesla's Q3 earnings call will be held at 5:30 a.m. on Thursday the 20th of October, Perth time. Tesla's Gigafactory Berlin in Brandenburg has passed the 2,000 car per week production barrier this week. If sustained, this performance would translate to an annual production rate in excess of 100,000 units, a mere 3 months since its production rate was half of its current benchmark. In what is more twists and turns than a snake with an itch, it seems that Elon Musk may now buy Twitter at his originally offered price of US $54.20 per share. This follows a serpentine rollercoaster series of events starting with Musk offering to buy Twitter, followed by Twitter blocking the sale, to Twitter accepting the sale, to Musk cancelling the sale, to Twitter suing for a sale, to Musk now apparently intending to complete the sale. Whatever. Tesla has announced it has removed ultrasonic sensors from all Model 3s and Ys currently being produced and which are being shipped worldwide, with Oceania and much of Asia being notable exceptions. It stated it intends to rely on Tesla Vision to eventually provide equivalent functionality previously provided by ultrasonics. Various functions including Park Assist, Auto Park, Summon and Smart Summon will be disabled in all affected vehicles until Tesla establishes functional parity with existing vehicles. Tesla states that other jurisdictions, including Australia, will have Model 3 and Model Y ultrasonics deleted over the coming months, as well as the global production of Models S and X. Finally, Tesla has stated that it currently does not have plans to disable the ultrasonic sensors of cars that already have them fitted. And that was this week's news. And welcome back. So if there's anyone that's new, please do say hello. But before you do that, apologies for the bit of glitch in audio at that Twitter bulletin. I just couldn't help it. Anyone that's new, please do say hello.
Paul Douglas here, new to it tonight.
Welcome, Paul. Tell us about your car.
I haven't seen it yet. I've got a Y on order, which is due 23rd to 5th of November in the next batch, I believe, the next shipment coming in.
Excellent. Congratulations.
I caught up with a few people on Sunday at the Rotary Club and also sent an email to the Secretary's address looking for Menikes 2 cable. I believe the club sells them. I'd like to buy one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll reply to that email in after this. I've just been rather busy the last couple of days, but I will get to all of those emails shortly. But yes, welcome. And it's exciting news that did you say 26th of November?
No, 23rd of October to the 6th of November.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, awesome. Wow. So that's only in a few weeks' time. That's
2 weeks,
that's
3
pretty
weeks.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I believe this is shipped due in another 2 weeks or so.
Yeah. Right. Fantastic. Well, that's pretty exciting. That's awesome. What color, by the way? Which version of Pearl White did you get?
Just the Pearl White.
Oh, and white interior, white seats.
No.
Ah,
I've
okay.
got grandkids.
Cool. Yep. Fair enough too.
I stuck
yeah,
with the black.
no worries. That's still an awesome selection. That's exactly the configuration I've got currently in a Model Y, so it's good. But welcome. Anyone else that's new, please do say hello if you'd like to. Or not, that's totally cool too. What you can do is, if you prefer, either say hello in the chat or just interrupt any time throughout the rest of this program. We might as well move on straight to questions and comments. Has anyone got any of those, apart from the elephants in the room, which is AI Day and the delivery and production results?
Yeah, Mike Browning here. I have a Tesla 3 standard, rear-wheel drive, and I bump into curves quite a bit, especially if I'm parking in Perth, in the high-rise parking things, and I really need to get it fixed. Do I buy a complete new rim, or can I get the rim fixed, or what do I do?
Yes, you can certainly do both. Just depends on the damage. If it's severe, it may only really be covered up. But if it's fairly mild, then I believe there are quite a few businesses that actually do specialise in that, and they will do rim rash repairs.
Any idea who? Could someone give me some names?
Andrew from Smart.
Hang on, Pete first, then
sorry.
Paul.
I was just going to tell him who.
Some of them, including the gentleman that Paul has just highlighted, come out to you.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear that clearly. Sorry. Okay, then. All right, Paul, if you just mention, and then Pete, you can finish.
Okay. Andrew from Smart Finish. You can just Google that, and he does it. I think it's $150 a wheel.
Andrew from Smart Finish, was it?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Pete, you got anything else?
No, I was just going to say he'll come to you to your work or your home as well, and most of them will do. Yeah,
that's great. So they could fix it on the spot if they could fix it.
if it depends on the damage, like Harold said.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Oh, for anyone that's had experience with that, do you customarily take photos first so Andrew can suss it out sort of beforehand, or does he just come and just assess it as he goes?
I personally haven't had it because I've done it myself. So, yeah, because I just got the paint from the automotive guy in Balcatta, and you just sand it back and then clean it up and then paint it. So, yeah. That's all
Harold, I've had about twice to our place, and I generally just send them through a photograph first. He gives us a quote, and then he comes out and fixes it.
I just booked
awesome.
a service
Thanks,
call
Martin.
I just booked a service call into Tesla, and went in there on the day, and they swapped it over with a repaired rim and took my tire off and put it on that rim, and then reinstalled that on my tire. And that is a little bit more expensive than other ways of doing it, but it's done very quickly.
Was about $300, Jared?
$295, Pete. saved
That's
$5. So
That's
I
fine.
could lash
That's
out. and
about
hot dog.
300, isn't it, Jared?
Oh, it's just under 300, Nigel. I could buy a hot dog at Bunnings and it changed for a can of drink. So, but yeah, they did a very efficient job at Tesla and put the air in and did everything right. It was good. But yeah, it is a very expensive process, but it's very quick. So
Okay, thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Oh, now one thing I should try and mention before I get in trouble is if anyone of you are here now or watching on YouTube later, if you haven't yet thought about it, please do consider actually joining the club as a financial member. So it costs a whole $20, and the main reason why you may want to do that is you can borrow loan adapters for free for road trips, and obviously you're also supporting the club. So if you want to do that, just go to our website, which is tokwa.org.au/memberships, I think it is. But it is actually a menu item on our website. So if you've actually ever, thought about it, please do so. And it's a whole $20, which is about only 2 cappuccinos, no, 3 or 4 these days. And like I said, you'll get loan adapters for free to use on road trips. You'll get access to discounted charging cables and adapters to buy. We also have spare wheels, some of which are the modern complete spare wheels. And we've got a few other bits and pieces as well. Plus, you're also supporting the club.
And after our service, I believe, Harold. After our service,
Yes,
there's a
and we've
special
got
hotline number.
We've got a I'm not going to call it a 24/7 hotline, but it is a hotline, and its number is 62623131. Of course, you don't need to be a member to use that, but it's certainly great if you are. Makes me feel better about
You get
waking up in the middle of the
quicker.
night. Yeah, you get through. No,
When
you
are
don't,
renewals
but-
sent out, Harold?
They're sent out automatically when at the end of 12 months. So when you join, it's actually for a 12-month period, and our membership system, I think it automatically sends out an email 1 or 2 weeks before your membership is due.
Yeah, I just got my email this afternoon.
Oh, and do you know when it was due? Did it say when it was due, Nigel?
About 6 months ago. Still working on it.
I don't know. I'll have to have a quick look.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I think it is some number of days before it's actually due, but that's cool.
Can I make the point that it's probably the best value car club membership in WA? I mean, I can't substantiate that. It's just my opinion. But, if you have a look at the events that we do, if you have a look at what you can get with that, being able to, and the discounts that you get on some of the charges. First of all, it's the cheapest membership. I'm pretty sure of that. Rob and I looked at it about 6 months ago, and the second cheapest was around $40 or $50, but there were some car clubs at several $100s. So one of the charges that we sell, or Harold sells for the club, is a cons charger. The cheapest, I've found that one on the internet, is $1,380, and we sell it for $750. So that's just one example of some of the benefits of being a member.
And Harold, the email said, "Thank you for your support, blah, blah, blah. Your annual membership will expire soon."
Cool. Okay. So it's
Probably
brilliant.
more.
So,
Blah blah blah.
soon.
Send me money.
I might
Harold.
pay me $20 tomorrow.
Joe.
Yes.
Harold, it's Mike.
Yes, Michael.
Could you
Yes,
repeat
Mike.
that phone number, please? That phone number?
Yeah,
you gave me?
absolutely. It is 62623131.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No worries. Okay, anyone else that might be new or hasn't been here for a while want to say hello, or we can just go straight to more questions if you like.
Well, I'd like to say hello if I could. So
Yes,
Because
Roz.
I'm
Yes,
now-
go.
I'm now a new Model Y owner, having become a Model 3 owner last December. Yes. And
You
I love it.
capitalist Ros, you. Awesome. Fantastic. Congratulations.
But the embarrassing thing is I've now got 2 Teslas. Right?
That's not a problem. That is not a problem to have.
Exactly. Yes, so now I've got a Model 3 for sale. That's all. So
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
And how do you like your awesome Model Y, Ros?
it is just so awesome. Yeah. The biggest thing which I hadn't realized, other than the clearance, which is great, I really appreciate the high clearance, is that instead of climbing out of my car, I now kind of drop out of my car, which is rather interesting.
And that's the killer feature of the Model Y. If you forget everything else, it's just the seating position and the ease of entry and exit. That's the killer
It is a real
feature.
killer. Yeah.
Yep.
So no, I love it. I mean, I still love my 3, but you know, this is even better. Who imagined it?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You know, I always keep saying that my best car is my next car, and your Model Y was your next car, so therefore it is the best car.
It is, absolutely it is, for sure. So I've gone in less than a year, I've gone for my Leaf that would only do 60 kilometres in winter. So this wonderful car that does over 400 kilometres and is just fantastic. So, but the Leaf's still in the family because, you know, it's still a really good car. And once I can get a new battery for it, it will be much better.
Yes.
But my son drives 40 k's to work and back. So he just charges it every night, saves him a heap on petrol.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the Y and the Y that you now have and the 3 that you no longer will have is just an awesome machine. It's just awesome.
They certainly are. That's right. So my son, on Mondays when I look after his son, he says, "Can I just take your Model Y to work today?" So it's a great day as a Model Y owner on Mondays.
Yes, well, I'd be charging him a pineapple for that, and excellent. You'll get a lot of kudos at work showing all his workmates.
Yeah, he's milking it for all it's worth.
Absolutely, absolutely. They are awesome cars. Now, Joe, sorry, did you? I thought you might have said something. I saw the thing going around your frame, or was that just a kid talking? I'm not sure.
Sorry, it was a child walked in.
Oh, cool.
I didn't
Sorry.
realise I was on mute. I wasn't.
No worries.
Nothing to say here.
Nothing to say. Move along.
I was going to say something though. When you were talking about how the membership is good value and you save lots of money. Just if you get a tow bar installed, you save a lot times $20 on the discount that Tokyo has with that. I can't remember the name of the company. You can name them.
Towlink in Wangara.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you said, at least 10 times that $20 amount.
It was, yes.
In savings. Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thanks, Joe. Alrighty. Anyone else got any other questions? I mean, I guess I could start with some leading questions like, what did everyone think about AI Day 2022?
It's awesome. It was 3 and a bit hours of awesome.
Oh,
It was.
I wouldn't agree with that. I'd say about 30 minutes was awesome because the other 2.5 hours, I had no idea what they're talking about.
It was incomprehensible.
Yeah. But yeah, what I was absolutely stunned by is I didn't actually realize just, when they had the dancer in the robot suit, they literally didn't have anything by then. It was still literally a concept. Yep. So they've, just the speed with which, I don't understand robotics obviously, but to develop a bipedal, humanoid robot is one of the harder things to do, and to make them walk is one of the harder things to do in robotics. And to have done it so quickly. Now, there's a lot of people comparing it to Boston Dynamics, and yeah, absolutely, Boston Dynamics are way ahead in terms of the agility and the way the robots move, and they can do somersaults and all the rest of it. But a very important point that Elon made, which is that these robots will have a brain. They'll be able to interpret the environment around them. And make decisions, which is very different to controlling a robot remotely programming that robot to do a certain routine or a certain task. So basically AGI, artificial general intelligence, not just AI.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing all the different techniques and stuff that they were using, like motion capture and other sort of stuff. And when you're comparing Boston Dynamics, it's a company been going for 30 years, and Honda is 30 years, and that sort of stuff, and that's all they sort of done. And you're sort of going, they're not showing us all the fails either, where Tesla, the first time without the harness live to the world, you're just going, oh God, if it falls over. But then I thought, if it falls over, that's even better, because then it'll be all over the thing, like the Cybertruck with the the smashed window. So I was, as a Tesla investor, I was hoping it would fall over, because then that way it'll be all over the news.
Robot fails miserably.
Yes.
Yeah, I took some screenshots. Obviously, this is their development robot, which they actually only started in February, which is pretty remarkable, since I think last year's AI Day was September, October. So really they had very little time to get this thing cobbled together. And then of course you've got, they show what's changed. So the concept was just nothing, to the development platform, to today, which is the latest generation. And there's a couple of interesting things they showed, that a human basically uses 100 watts while just sitting, and 500 while walking. And this is the new robot. And yet they are actually putting only a 2.3 kilowatt hour battery. Mind you, it's 52 volts. You've got the bot brain, which is a single Tesla system on chip. So whereas in our cars we have two of these SoCs, this one only needs one. You've got your 22 structural actuators and your 11 degrees of freedom. What was really cool was they actually explained how they use the human knee joint, which basically becomes a 4-bar link, and that actually dramatically changes the way that you can project power through the knee and through the lower leg. And that was pretty cool how they did that. And they actually showed that they'd optimized the joint for the efficient actuators. And then they went to explain, in a car you don't have to really analyze much as far as the motors go, because there basically are only really two drivetrains. But whereas for the robot you've got many actuators, and they have to do lots of different things, walking forward, walking stairs, operating a screwdriver, turning while walking, and all that sort of stuff. And it was great that they then showed that they were analyzing this graph here shows the system cost, so how much each actuator might cost compared to its mass, its weight. And obviously you don't want something that's too heavy, otherwise everything gets worse. So then they've sort of picked for this one actuator, which is intended to move the right hip. They've picked one actuator that's got the correct price and weight, sort of confluence of price and weight. But then what they did was they actually analysed all the movements of all the motors to find, to find the optimum actual actuator. But then rather than having a multitude of actuators, so that's the analysis there, and they've all got different answers or different ideals, they then went and found what was common between them, and they found 6 actuators that they could use as a very good compromise, which are just these.
Instead of 20.
Instead of 20 or 28 or whatever.
28.
So you've only got 3 linear actuators and 3 rotary actuators, and that sort of went into a bit of the design. One interesting thing was there's one that's capable of pulling or pushing 8,000 newtons, and of course they showed it lifting, or basically, I don't know what you call it, doing like bench curls on a grand piano, weighing 500 kilos, I think it was.
It was.
Yep. And then you've got the biologically inspired design of the actual hand, which has got actually 5 fingers, which is interesting. And they actually are using you can actually see they're mimicking tendons, which they found to be the most efficient actual method. And you can actually see here, I think it's in the next slide, they actually call that, oh yes, a clutching finger drive. So what this actually does is when the hand is actually gripping something, because it's got these clutching finger drive, you don't have to actually use continued power to keep the motor engaged, to keep holding on to whatever the hand is holding on to. This thing basically, once it's in position, it keeps the same squeezing force. So you're not wasting energy, which if you get back to the original thing of what they showed a human being is 100 watts sitting and 500 watts walking. Well, you've only got less than 100 watts of continuous draw available for a 24-hour period. So it just goes to show that Tesla, in all of their designs, and this is where they differ from many other robotics manufacturers, they're always thinking about efficiency, not just efficiency of manufacturing, but also efficiency of operation. And that's where they're just so far ahead of all the other robotics companies that just don't think this sort of stuff's important. And I think, as Elon Musk said, the challenge is to get a meaningfully useful robot at a reasonable price at high volumes as soon as practicable. And that's the ultimate challenge. So then back to the hands, you've got 6 actuators, 11 degrees of freedom. You got the adaptive grasp and the non-back drivable fingers, which is this clutching finger drive, which means you don't have to continue to waste energy continuing to grip onto something once you've grabbed onto it.
So to release it, the grip, I think there was a question from the crowd. So is it spring loaded? Is it so once it springs back? So because you don't need any power to open the hand, you just need it to spring back.
There is a spring return to open the hand.
Yeah.
So because you're actually using, sorry, my computer's a little bit slow at the moment. You're actually using tendons to actually pull in much the same way. In much the same way as hands, actually, we have tendons. I mean, we do have tendons on the back of your hand as well, that you actually pull backwards. But generally, it's gripping, and you're just tightening these tendons, which is why you can only grip in an arc, because as you're pulling, it's like a drawstring. As you're pulling it, it can only go into a curve. You can't really do isolated movements. But there is a spring return to allow it to open. But because they've got this clutching drive, it only works when you unwind this drive to loosen the tendons, basically, effectively. And then, the great thing that they're leveraging is the autopilot computer, because this is the 3D occupancy plot, which is exactly what Tesla intends to use when they eliminate the ultrasonic sensors in the cars and just rely on Tesla vision. So this is this occupancy vector space that they're deriving from the cameras, and they're using exactly the same sort of software and neural networks which they can leverage from the cars. And then of course you've got the volumetric depth rendering, which is converting this image to this is actually depth, so the darker parts are closer and the lighter parts are further away. And then after that, they obviously went on to talk about autopilot and full self-driving. And obviously that was, as you said, Pete, on the surface, some of it was quite interesting, but then they got into the weeds and it just became a very technical, talk about the depth, which only engineers that want to work for Tesla, which was the whole point of AI Day in the first place, that's making them want to actually join the company, because all of that stuff they're talking about is super interesting. But towards the end, they basically said that, they only need to have 4 Dojo cabinets to replace their entire 72 GPU rack, which, is a massive achievement. And obviously, they're going to get their first exapod by next year, early next year, and that'll be 2.5 times better than what they already are using. And then next year there'll be a total of 7 exapods in Palo Alto.
So to put that into context, that's going to be pretty much the second or the third biggest computer in the world.
I think so, yes. Certainly of its kind, and probably will be the biggest of its kind, but probably right up there with the world's biggest supercomputers. And the great thing is it's all Tesla's design, and they did, I'm sure we all remember, they even went to the point where they had, each training tile has 25 Dojo custom chips in it, and each one of those custom chips have, I think, 300 processors. I could be wrong, but quite a large number of processors internal to that each chip. But each one is consuming 18,000 amps of electricity, each tile, and that has to be cooled. And they've got, I think each power supply was supplying 1,000 amps or nearly 1,000 amps, and they had some issues with oscillators that, because the capacitors on these little power supplies were actually vibrating in an unfavorable way, they actually found that the oscillators which were used to control the microprocessors were failing in time. So then they went through, I think it was nearly 24 iterations to try and get this thing to work or to fix it. And they finally found that they had to change the type of capacitor that was there. And that's the great thing about being vertically integrated. They can just keep hammering at the problem and just fix it. But I think something that's really dramatic is, how we've all seen full self-driving progressing, and you see all the YouTube videos of it getting better and better and better. Well, that is only using the 72 GPU racks. Well, this is just for the auto labeling section, but that's using existing technology which can be replaced by 4 Dojo cabinets. The thing is, everything that Tesla's done thus far has been without Dojo. So just imagine how fast the progression will be when they don't just have 4 Dojo cabinets or a 10 Dojo cabinet exapod, but when they've got 7 of them that have got nothing to do but improve FSD and the robot.
This is what
So
people.
Harold, oh, sorry.
Go, Pete.
So people keep saying, look, it's only a matter of time. The other companies will catch up. They'll catch up with electric cars. The competition will catch up with full self-driving. What they don't understand is, if it's a 100-meter race, Tesla's 30 meters in, most are only 5 meters in, but everyone else is running at 20 kilometers an hour. Tesla's running at 30 kilometers an hour. More so though, Tesla's increasing their speed, much faster than the rest. So they're already in front, they're already running faster, but they're already accelerating faster as well. So, good luck if you think anyone's going to catch up.
Yeah, exactly, because a lot of the robotics critics were saying, oh, well, I think someone tried to pass it off as, oh, it's a good first year robotics student's effort, and it's more like a 101 type of demonstration. And it's like they just don't understand the fact that it's got nothing to do with how well it can walk today or how well it can do anything today. It's what they're doing with all the vision systems that those other robotics companies can only dream of, because they just don't even know what's going on as far as that's concerned.
But they completely miss the purpose of the robot. The purpose is for it to be a low-cost, mass-produced robot, which none of the Boston Dynamics robots aren't that. The Honda robot that can walk isn't that. These aren't carbon fiber, like Elon said, carbon fiber, one-off, horrendously expensive prototypes. The idea is that these will be mass-produced. possibly, you know, thousands, possibly millions sold. So, you know, yeah, I think that was a bit misinformed, that comment.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Jared, you're going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say that, you know, maybe they could, if they can get that robot working, they might be able to get Nigel Saunders' whole body in the screen. Like, you know, just a matter of time, I guess, but they'll get the full body in there. You know, be amazing.
Amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You could get the Optimus to automatically lower the camera, like automatically, sort of with a neural network.
Actually, that was
raising up.
Sorry. I had a point of, you know, how I was talking about the 20 grand for the robot, and I'm going, well, why would people buy full self-driving then if you've got like a chauffeur? You know,
because
you've got your robot. You know,
you're wasting a seat, Paul.
then I can sit in the back and it could do its thing, or you could hire the robot out.
I think Paul's onto something, because, you know, if you're someone like Roz who has 2 Teslas and doesn't know what to do with them, with one robot, you could have full self-driving on both cars. Well, at least the car that you're in, whether that's your lovely Model Y or your Model 3. And look, dare I say, the robot might even be able to work out how to drive a Nissan Leaf, at least for 60 kilometres. And, you know, you've kind of got yourself full self-driving as a friend that can walk along with you and drive as well.
And the other point to make also is the car will be much more effective than the robot, because the robot, like us, will only have 2 cameras facing forward, whereas the car's got 9.
No, the camera, I'm thinking with these guys, there's nothing to stop them putting cameras all the way around. So you got 360 view. That's what I'm thinking they're going to do.
You do slightly. There are multiple cameras.
Yeah.
So
I'm sort of wondering if they've already started doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You just never quite know, do you?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, so
anyway.
Look, it was a pretty cool. Oh, sorry, I've just gone back off. So my little stream deck is playing up a little bit. But yeah, it was an awesome presentation. And like I said, if you're really into the technical weeds, they certainly gave you everything you wanted and more, which was pretty cool. The next thing we had was the delivery results, production and deliveries results. Pete, you're a bit of an analyst. What did you think of them?
Don't know if I call myself an analyst.
Well, I just did, so that's good enough. That's good enough for us.
No, I think the results were perfectly fine. It was, you know, big deal. It was the deliveries were 20,000 less than what analysts had expected. Well, that's what that was, you know, explained. They're getting to a stage where the company is so big now, to try and push out cars a week earlier just so you can, you know, get them all delivered at the end of the quarter is just getting prohibitively expensive, and they're struggling to get transport capacity, and it's just not an efficient way to run a business. I mean, you know, what do you do with all those people for the other 2 months, you know? So yeah, no, I'm perfectly, I mean, so I think they're talking about possibly, you know, on track to deliver or produce 500,000 cars in Q4. So, you know, in the whole of last year, they produced what, 930,000 cars. So, you know, to be at I mean that annualizes to a 2 million car run rate. So, yeah, you know, it's still a 50%, 40 to 50% growth. So, you know, for a company to be growing at those growth rates at the scale they are, you know, almost what are they, a $700 billion company or whatever the market cap is just extraordinary. So, yeah, when the stock fell 8% or whatever the next day after the results were published. Well, once the market opened and after AI Day, I just went in and I'm full up. I've bought all the Tesla shares that I can, but I went and borrowed a bit more money and bought some more. So I just saw it as a buying opportunity. Yeah, I didn't see anything negative there at all. But that's just my opinion. You better press that button, Harold. And,
yeah, I'm just about to do it.
The previous comments were general in nature and shouldn't be taken as personal professional advice. Listeners should seek their own independent assessment from a qualified advisor and not rely on the general nature of information in this program.
Yes, but what Pete is saying is still true. It's a great buying opportunity. You know, sometimes the market just does weird things. But yeah, it's just a fantastic company. And the main point, you know, Pete was saying about, you know, Tesla's trying to get away from this quarterly rush thing. Well, you know, it's also a great time to sort of stop these silly articles that come out in all these various websites sprouting that, you know, in September, Tesla was Australia's biggest car seller and, you know, outsold this and it outsold that. And it's like, well, yes, that's in 1 month, but it didn't sell many almost any in July because no ships had arrived yet. So it's just a meaningless thing. But it obviously means that the people that were preparing cars for delivery had nothing to do. And then whereas, you know, if you've got 1 or 2 big ships arriving in Fremantle almost simultaneously, then you've got to rush everything off the port. Whereas if you had ships arriving every few weeks in a steady cadence, then everything's a lot cheaper, a lot easier. People don't get stressed, costs Tesla less money. And who cares about them having 50,000 cars in inventory? It's still nothing compared to what the other car makers have got, where they've got literally, is it 12 weeks?
5 to 10 weeks.
Yeah.
With COVID, it's closer to 5 weeks, but 10 weeks is fairly normal. Tesla is at 2 weeks, and half those cars are on ships anyway. So
yeah, exactly. And
the difference. Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
I was just saying, and the difference is Tesla's sold all their cars. The other automakers have just moved it off the books and given it to dealers, and the dealers have to deal with it. So they haven't actually done shit. And Tesla's margin is 30%, you know, close to 30%, and theirs is 10%. So I'd rather be in a company that's making money.
10% is being quite generous too.
I know. Yeah. I don't want us to get sued.
Harold, yes.
Paul Douglas has got a hand up.
Oh, apologies, Paul. Sorry. Yes, go, Paul.
Just commenting on the shipping. It's a very interesting thing. Fremantle Port is actually can't handle any more car carriers at the moment. They're, I believe, all the spaces for car carriers are booked out continuously.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Cool.
On Fremantle Port, it's actually the worst port in the world. Well known to be the worst shipping port in the world. And when it comes to delays and getting things off the port, it's #1 in the world.
Yeah, well, the big problem down there you can see is the actual lack of space to park vehicles.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Tesla's obviously got a very good relationship with the car carriers because the Model 3s that arrived last quarter and the Model Ys, they were actually the 3s were even quicker. They were taken off. Nearly 500 Model 3s were taken off. It was less than 48 hours, and they were all clear. Whereas I think, Jared, you've seen Toyotas or other vehicles on the port for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Or Nissans or whatever.
3 weeks. I saw the Toyota Hilux, the one that I bought, the Rogue, sitting on the port for 3 weeks. And the guy from Toyota said he knew it was there. There was nothing he could do about it. So, because it had to be taken by a car carrier from Fremantle to the holding yard, and it wasn't allowed to be driven. And it took 3 weeks. So.
Yeah, I believe the Port Authority actually penalises them. They have to start paying fees if they keep them on there for after a number, they've got 2 or 3 days to get them off.
Yep.
If they're longer than that, they start paying demurrage.
I think it's 72 hours,
something
or roughly
like that.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Because they want to get their pound of flesh for the square meters of land that your car's occupying.
It's not just for cars, it's anything that comes
Oh,
off.
everything. Yeah, you're right.
Some years ago, I was awaiting a shipment from China, and I was contacting the Port Authority constantly, and they said, no, it's not here, it's not here. And then I get a bill for storage. And it had arrived a week before. So I told them where they could shove their storage fees.
Okay, now we had a question which I think it was Jared had posed, and that was to do with getting. Oh, sorry, I've just okay. Waiting delivery for a model. Model Y performance. Oh, gee, you'll be waiting, as will all of us. And asking about, having a charger fit in the garage, and you've had a look at the Zappy and wanting to know, costs and all that sort of stuff. Without wanting to cast any aspersions against Zappy per se, because it is a great product. It's very effective at what it does. And what it basically does do is it monitors effectively the energy coming in or out of your house or through the meter. And if there's any surplus energy, it will basically dribble it at various rates into your car. The biggest issue with something like that product is that it costs about $2,000. Now, unless you work from home all the time or are retired or whatever, basically when you pay the $2,000 plus installation for the Zappy, you're effectively prepaying the so-called free energy it's going to funnel into your car, but you're prepaying it today. And then you're relying on the theory that in the next little while, it will effectively put in $2,000 worth of energy into your car just to break even. And of course, if you don't have your car at home all the time, and you've got, like most people, just an ordinary 5 kilowatt inverter with 6.6 kilowatts of panels, it's going to take a very long time to even break even before making a profit. I think, Pete, you'd worked out at, was it more than 10 years? I think it was in most cases.
A lot more. Yeah. And look, there's nothing wrong with prepaying for energy. It all depends on how long it takes you to get that money back and whether you will get it back. So, because that's effectively what we're doing when we're buying our Teslas. We're prepaying the electricity, if you like, or the fuel, because the car costs $80,000 rather than $40,000. But you get it back, within a few years. Similar with solar, you get it back within 3 to 5 years, and and then it's all free. But if it takes you 20 years, I mean, firstly, the warranty doesn't. You always want your payback period to be shorter than your warranty. Let's put it that way. So even a Tesla Powerwall, you're looking at sort of 8 to 12 year payback period with a 10-year warranty. So that starts to get marginal. But if you've got a 20-year payback period with what's the warranty on the Zappy? Is it 2-3 years or whatever it is? Who knows?
Probably a couple of years, something like that.
Wouldn't be 20 years, that's for sure.
No. But of course, that doesn't stop you if you just simply want it because, well, for a similar reason why you bought the car, which is it's an awesome machine and you love to see it working, then by all means do it. But as long as you understand it's on the basis of it's got nothing to do with saving money. But if it's convenient and you get a satisfaction out of not giving Synergy any of that energy, particularly if you've got more than 5 kilowatts of inverter, in which case your feed-in tariff is literally zero. And if you feel that,
the feed-in tariff is like 7 cents. And then I've got a little system connected to it. It tells me how much goes to them.
Yep.
And, and there's always a surplus. And I just thought, well, for what I get from it, it's very little. So is it worth the extra cost on the Zappy? If not, it doesn't
No.
seem to be. It seems to take years.
No.
So is it just the normal charger that can come with the Tesla? Plug it into a upgraded socket.
10 amp.
It's just as quick.
Well, it's almost as quick. So the 10 amp, just a 10 amp
No, it's
outlet.
not as quick. It's not as quick.
No, but a 10 amp outlet for your solar is 2.5 kilowatts roughly, which is half of your inverter's capacity. And you know, on a summer's day, you might get that, maybe fairly early. You know, 8:30 till 3:30 or something like that, or maybe 4 o'clock. But in winter, you know, your solar will struggle to get much above 2.5 kilowatts before, say, 10 a.m., depending. So as a simplest zero cost solution, if you just use your UMC, your Universal Mobile Connector that comes, I was going to say it comes free if you can't. No, it will, because you presumably, if it's a Model Y Performance, you presumably ordered it early in June, in which case you will get it for free, the UMC. But if for anyone else listening, or listening into the future, any orders placed now, and in fact from about a month or two ago, you don't get the UMC. You've got to pay $500 for it, roughly, I think. But in any case, it's something that you need with the need for the car anyway.
Yeah.
And it's the zero cost or very low cost option, and it actually puts in. Well, you can use the 15 amp. The 15 amp tail, get an electrician to fit a 15 amp dedicated outlet and on its own dedicated circuit, and you can draw up to 3.3 kilowatts, which is quite a lot for a 5 kilowatt system. So you can charge your car quite hard on the surplus that your inverter's putting out. But again, you can only do that while your car is there during the daytime. And if that's only on weekends, well, then it's a little bit, well, that even makes the Zappy argument even worse, because if you can only use your Zappy on the weekend, well, it's going to take even longer to try and get a payback on it.
What did you say? Because I work away, I like 8 days away, 6 days home. My thoughts were set it to do the charging and keep the battery topped up while I'm here, while the sun's shining. When I'm home, use it, because I won't be doing like massive journeys with it. But I dare say to start with, my foot might be a little bit heavy, and just let people on the road know what I'm driving, you know, like probably everybody else does. And then when I go away again, then do the charging.
Can I say something towards the Zappy? Because I had that same question a while ago, and you guys made that same argument. It's quite expensive for what it does, and the payback. I've totally followed that argument. So I went with you guys' recommendation, use the UMC to charge, but I got the quote for the 15 amp and the 32 amp. And basically it was about $300 more to put the 32 amp single phase in there, which effectively gives me the opportunity to double charge, and maybe at some point having a second EV, definitely want to have the option of charging a bit quicker. And I can max out my solar, which is at 5 kilowatts max with 6.6 kilowatt panels. And if you have a fairly new inverter, so I have one from Solar Edge, depending on what you have, there's a really cool app out.
Yep.
Say again?
You can use Charge HQ.
Charge HQ. And I've been trialing this now for over a month, and I'm absolutely elated by the results. We had a couple very cloudy days. So what it does is essentially it queries your solar inverter and checks out how much solar you're making, how much your house is doing, and how much excess you have. And then basically, based on that excess, it dials in your UMC and changes the amperage, and then fills in your Tesla with that. And it's working really, really well.
Gerard, you weren't sure what solar inverter you had, were you?
No, well, that's not my field, you see. So all I know is the system works, and there you go.
You know, if it's a Fronius, for example, have you noticed what the inverter, or is it a GoodWe, or
SMA?
To be honest with you, gentlemen, wouldn't have a clue.
That's cool.
What color is it?
Years ago. Sorry?
What color is it?
That's another good question.
Wouldn't it, like starting out, Gerard, I'd recommend just going UMC. Gerard.
Yes, Gerard, by the way.
All right. use the UFC. If you're away on site, you can set the schedule just to say, hey, charge between 11 and 3 o'clock every day at 5 amps. Your car will be fully charged by the time you get back. The odd cloudy day, you might use a little bit of electricity, but and see how you go. It's a zero cost for you.
Yeah,
but then
I
you
think
start exploring HQ.
No, I think that's probably the best way forward. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. And Gerard, are you at home at the moment?
No, I'm up on site.
Oh, yeah, got you. All right. I was just going to say, just hop outside, have a look. But no, that'll be a bit hard.
To be honest with you, that's sounding really stupid. I wouldn't even know what I'm looking for.
Gerard, I'll come
yeah, no, that's cool.
Just a big box.
There's a big box. I always see the big box with the the big box is grey.
Okay. Is it fairly
curvy?
Square, or has it got rounded edges?
Oh, come on, guys! Stop asking the difficult questions. I only walk past it to hang the washing out.
This is like a game of Guess Who.
Yeah, I do have a system called Solar Analytics connected to it all, but I don't know if that'll give me the answers.
That's fine. You can use Charge HQ. You're fine, Gerard. You can use Charge HQ because Solar Analytics works.
I'm loving that. Thank you.
Yeah, so you're all good.
For yourself a $2,000 saving and use excess solar to charge the car.
Yeah.
Richard, could you turn the light off, mate? Because that light on your head is quite blinding.
What, is it off my solar panel?
Yes, your solar panels, yes.
You're a fine one to talk, mate. Anyway, let's take this offline.
Yes, I had a feeling that he might know. Yeah, you two might know each other.
Yeah, I managed to convince Gerard to order a performance Model Y.
Well, I think it was a few years ago when he bought up his Model S, let me drive that. And I thought, wow, this is fun. And I think it's 2019, we took out a Model 3 Performance. And then he's hated me ever since because it makes his S look slow.
Yeah, I wish I'd never driven it.
Once you go performance, you never go back.
Exactly.
Yeah, correct.
So Gerard, do you know when you're going to get your Y?
Yeah, that's your Solar Analytics app. Yep.
That's it, and that's where it's done today.
Yep.
Wow.
No, I don't
88
think
kilowatt hours.
I think that's.
Folks, just be aware that. Sorry, just be aware
that's
that.
In the week. That's the week. Sorry.
Last week, yeah.
Charge HQ is currently free in beta mode, and it's very, very good. I use it, and it's fantastic. But they are likely to start charging probably around $5 to $10 a month for it once it comes out of beta mode. So just be aware of that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll have to then run a ruler over. Are you getting $5 or $10 a month benefit compared to the alternative, which is what James was sort of talking about, which is you just set your car to start charging at 10 a.m. and finishing at 2 or 3 p.m. And you just, on average, that's a super simple setting. And most of the time, you'll probably won't draw anything from the grid. And if you do, it won't be very much. And that's the ultra free, completely free option, which won't cost you a cracker.
Yeah, I think that's the one. I like that one.
Well, it's the sort of the simplest. It's not the most elegant. And again, look, if you want, if you're a gadget person and you just want to plug something into a machine that just does it all automatically, super accurately, and you move on once you've paid the $2,000 for the Zappy. I mean, after all, you've bought an $80,000 or a $110,000 car, so it's not like, like cost is all that important, sort of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the $2,000 could go towards some accessories.
And there's plenty of those. There's plenty of those.
I've already got 5
Gerard,
ordered.
there's.
I mean, Gerard, if you're getting 7 cents for putting solar back, that's pretty good. Like someone like me who just has solar very recently, I'm getting 2.5 cents for putting it in there, but I'm basically making up to the 31 cents putting in my own car. So for me, the calculation looks a bit different than for maybe someone like you who actually gets more for the feed-in tariff.
Yeah, Christian, you'll be getting 10 cents between 3 and 9 p.m. But the thing is that between those hours, the system A doesn't produce that much, and B, you're most likely to use most of whatever it produces anyway. So there won't be that much left for export. I actually did a calculation based on an average Perth home and a 6.5 or 6.6 on 5 kilowatt solar PV system. And I did a volume weighted average between the 2.5 cents and the 10 cents, and it worked out about 4.5 cents roughly. So when they changed the feed-in tariff, it was effectively almost a halving of the tariff. It went from 7.135 cents to, a volume weighted average of about 4.5. So,
yeah, look, I'm just gonna say, right now it's free. Richard has a really good point. Like when they charge, you have to really have a look at this. But for example, before I leave to work, I can already let it run and kind of see. I have basically my cutoff, saying if I can put in 0.5 kilowatt hours excess until I leave, and then of course it ramps up, so I can basically already sort of third or half my charging cost. I'm not on a midday saver or anything like this. So for me, I'm gonna make that calculation. If I do it almost daily, just these 1.5 hours until I leave, it's been quite good. It basically covered a lot of what I drive. I don't have that much that I go. So having that early in the morning, it kind of really, really helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just very quickly, what you could all... Oh, go on, James.
The Chatamo is two-way charging. Is it any word on whether Tesla will ever enable that, or is that built into the Tesla and not enabled?
No, they can't do it, and Harold will tell you why.
There are no cars that exist at the moment that have onboard chargers that can do it, because the onboard chargers, the final stage of when it's turned into DC, they are using diodes instead of transistors, and it's only unless they put transistors in that final stage that it could actually go backwards. So none of the existing Teslas can do it in an AC mode. In other words, have AC erupt out of the charge port, basically, to feed a house or the grid. You could do it using CCS. It's just that the standard hasn't been formulated. I mean, to be brutally honest, it's actually frustratingly simple. For instance, if you had a Fronius or many of the other hybrid inverters, the electronics required to effectively turn your car into a connectable battery storage device, such as like a Powerwall, well, not a Powerwall, but like a BYD battery bank or a LG Chem battery that's hooked into these hybrid inverters, you could make your car do that for a couple of $100 worth of electronics. And the actual protocol is super simple. All you have to do is tell the car to close its onboard contactor and have DC erupting out of the DC pins. And it just feeds into your inverter, and your inverter can charge it and discharge it and do whatever it wants. Super simple. It's ridiculously simple. But there's no standard yet being done via CCS, whereas, as James said, there is a standard for Chatamo, because Chatamo uses a CAN bus. CCS uses a different setup. Now, getting to and that is every grid operator's wet dream to have vehicle to grid, because you'll then have gigawatt hours of cars all over the place, with batteries that are mostly, full or whatever. And if the grid could take and put back energy when it pleased, like I said, it's every grid operator's wet dream. The biggest problem, though, is that the batteries in our cars aren't particularly cheap, because they've got 4 wheels attached to them and other things. So what you're doing then is you're actually exercising or aging your battery just to feed your house. But the thing is, the battery that you're aging is a rather expensive mobile battery, whereas it's much better to have a cheap, heavy,
Stationary.
purpose-built stationary battery that does all this in-out work. And the thing too is, you don't necessarily have to generate energy or pull energy from your car for it to be useful. So because let's face it, as consumers, we don't really care where the power goes. We're just either buying it or we're creating it and selling it and whatever. But it's the grid operators and the grid itself that cares. So what you can do is simply get your car to either charge now or charge at some time in the future. And if conditions change, like it's cloudy or whatever, turn off or reduce the power that they're drawing. And that is the equivalent of generating power. If you turned off a gigawatt of consumption, well, that's the equivalent of keeping consumption the same and turning on a gigawatt of generation. So it actually makes no difference to the grid. So you can achieve the same effect by simply stopping cars from charging when they shouldn't. Oh, I've got a real echo there. Can everyone hear that echo?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there you go. So the economics, I think there was a Canadian university study that was made into the economics of it. So can we just try and mute a couple of people just in case someone's got a bad echo? If you can please just mute yourselves to see if it goes away. I can't hear it now. Oh, no, now I can. Oh, that might have been you, Paul? Douglas? Yeah, I can't hear it. No, I've still got it. Anyway, never mind. So they've done a study into the economics of it, and yeah, it's just not economically viable to consume the batteries in cars in that way.
And James, also the first Roadsters that Tesla made, they had bi-directional charging available in AC as well. And Elon said that no one used it. They got rid of it in the newer model because no one used it.
That's a stupid argument, Pete, because back then nobody knew about it.
And my question now to carry on that, I've got a Nissan Leaf here, which it's 70% good battery. That's about 18 kilowatts of battery. If I was to sell that, it would probably go for about 14,000, which is less than it cost me to buy a stationary battery at the same price. So we get into a marketplace where old batteries are coming. That sits here all day, every day. It only gets used on the weekends and for small things.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Just got distracted on the phone. Apologies, but it was Tesla work. Yeah, so that's the battery sort of story. That's great idea, but it's just not going to happen anytime in any of our existing cars, unless you did something like the Nissan Leaf, where Nissan have offered a vehicle to grid charger. I think it's got an approval, and it only costs. I could be wrong, but I think it might only cost $12,000. And again, you got to say to yourself, is that worth $12,000? That's not the battery. That's just the so-called charger that can pull and push energy in and out of the battery. And not many houses use $12,000 worth of electricity.
You got to question, even if it was $2,000, you'd be questioning whether it's worth it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But like I said, for anyone that's sort of technically minded, trust me, the actual action of converting your car into a solar battery, if you want to call it that, is so frustratingly easy. It's just not funny. But anyway. Cool. Has anyone got any other questions about cars or comments about news?
Sorry, me again then. I'm getting a tow bar put on my Model Y tomorrow. Couldn't bother waiting for Tesla any longer. So I'm going with Eco up at Tow Link. excellent excellent discount there. Really great guy, Kevin. Am I being too worried about it's not going to have trailer mode?
Yeah. Is it? I wonder if there's ever a possibility of paying Tesla to enable trailer mode, or they might just not do that.
From what I've seen, the only really thing I don't care about the better range calculation. I can deal with that. It's adjusting the braking and turning off the alarms to say something's about to run into the back of you.
Yeah.
Yes, right, because if you're towing the trailer, you'll get the ultrasonics will always freak out, and if you go into reverse, well, then they will freak out. I mean, if you're driving, it just shows, as red outline on the back of your car, and if you're going to reverse, of course, the ultrasonic, the tone goes off, the alarm bit. That's pretty cool, James.
Yeah. So in the history of Tesla, do you ever see them offering that as a upgrade that you'll be able to pay for and get independently where you got your tow bar, or just deal with it?
No.
I know someone they bought, this isn't a Model X, which didn't have bio defense weapon mode, but he bought the HEPA filter and then got Tesla to add the software switch to enable bio defense weapon mode. So whereas if you've got a Model 3 and you've fitted a tow bar, you will not be able to get tow mode because towing is not something that Tesla offers for Model 3s, even though they do it in Europe. Because the Model Y can tow, there is a possibility, but we don't know the answer of whether they'll say yes or no. But look, you're doing it anyway, James, so once you've done it, you might as well ask the question, and the worst they can say is no.
Yeah, thanks.
But they might not do it until they've started installing tow bars to Model Ys, which they haven't done yet, because it still shows as being out of stock.
Yeah.
If you want to, you can jump on the website and register your email address, and when it becomes available, they'll send you an email.
Yeah, I've already registered, but nothing's happening. I had the Telstra technician around here the other day fixing the Model 3, the compliance plate, and he said he's got no idea when they're coming. And I want to start towing. We're planning on a couple of trips at Christmas, so we're going to hire some small camper trailers over the next few months and just see how they go.
Great. Just be prepared for a big hit to the consumption, especially if you get caught in a headwind or anything like that. But the best thing.
All my trips I'm planning on like 150k stints.
That should be no problem.
150 Ks, stop for lunch, and then go on to a caravan park, charge overnight. And then as the highway gets built out, we'll go further.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, great idea.
And bearing in mind, that's going to be completed. I mean, we've only got 3 months. Is it less than 3 months to Christmas? Which means we've got less than 15 months before the EV highway will effectively be finished. So, it's going to be finished by the end of next year. And I know that sounds like a long time, but it's not. It's going to be happening pretty quickly.
No, we've planned all the places that we like to go to, and they're doable now with RAC chargers, TOCWA chargers, biofuel chargers. You can get to all the popular caravan sort of sites right now. Yep. And allegedly, the drive, we're not one of these people that gets on the highway and has to sit at 100 kilometers an hour, do an 8-hour day. You can drive down to Eaton, charge up, go through Collie, have lunch, charge up, end up like at Greenbushes the weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. How did your was it Mora? You went to Mora or something?
Yeah, Moore River. Really great.
Moore River, sorry, yes. Awesome.
I think I did a few test drives, took a few people, had a few comments like, what's the Tesla doing here? Why are people camping with Tesla? That doesn't work. And changed a few attitudes, and that's good.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. I mean, everyone you meet, as soon as they see the cars, they love them. And very receptive. Cool. All right. So anyone else got any other comments or questions?
Yeah. Paul's got his hand up, so he can go first. And
sorry,
and
apologies.
Richard's got his hand up.
I know.
Paul, go.
That one.
Oh, thanks. Margaret River RAC charger, the superhighway. Anyone know what's happening with that? I think it's been out now since April.
Don't worry about it.
Yes, precisely nothing. Nothing at all, Paul. Fortunately, if presuming you own a Tesla, you've got a 6-stall supercharger at Margaret River, as well as I think. Oh, sorry, it's a 3-stall. Sorry, apologies. 3-stall supercharger and 3 or 4 destination chargers.
Yeah, that's in the shopping centre.
There's only 2. Is it 2? Oh, okay.
2 at the shopping centre. It's 2 at the shopping centre.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was.
Yeah. So, Paul. So the short answer is, if you look at, in fact, I'm going to open the ChargeFox app and get the live status of that awesome charger in Margaret River, and it says.
Hey, Gerard, I think it might be. Are you able to mute yourself? I think the feedback might be coming from your microphone. Maybe. Yep, perfect. Yeah, much better.
It says that the live thing says out of order. Something's broken. It says station has been vandalised, and that was updated on the 17th of April 2022.
Yeah,
and
that's what I noticed. The only thing that worries me is about if they're that's slack on their maintenance and they're rolling out this superhighway, whether the rest of their outlets, wherever they place them, will be treated in the same way.
Well, firstly, ChargeFox is not rolling out the superhighway or the highway, the EV highway. It's Synergy and Horizon Power. Secondly, the issue with Margaret River, and I'm just going to bring up bring up Margaret River, so you can see what the actual damage is. And oops, that's the wrong one. Yeah, the plugs are smashed. So once this comes up, it's got a very weird photo. There we go. There's your smashed plugs there.
Yeah.
And that again took about 15 seconds to do that damage, because you just need to grab the cable,
give it a good swing,
give it about a meter and a half, swing it like a cat, smash it on the ground.
Yeah.
Although I believe they were actually smashing it against the charger, but the charger body sort of held up fairly well. So the point is, it's a tritium charger, and unfortunately, Tritium seem to have gotten a reputation of being a bit tardy with their provision of spare parts. So, and this is the RAC's electric highway. This is not the WA government's electric highway.
Separate, is it?
Absolutely, because there are no stations that have been installed yet for the.
Right. Sorry,
the WA electric highway. So that it's a totally separate system. This is the RAC.
Just that the RAC have been out there promoting it as their highway.
Which it is. They have got their own highway. That's at the RAC in. Well, in fact, if we look at. Sorry, I've just got to change my filters. So if you basically look at this map here, most of the charges in the southwest are RAC. So Augusta, Margaret River, Dunsborough, Bustleton, Bridgetown, Pemberton, Donnybrook. Most of those are the RAC's electric highway, which was the first electric highway of its kind in the world. I think that was done about 6 or 7 years ago. And you can tell because they've been designed for mainly cars like Nissan Leaf, where they're very close intervals. They're about, they're less than 60 kilometres apart. But back when EVs, it was very rare to have a long-range EV. But the WA electric highway is actually, I'll just bring that up. Its map, it's just on their website, and it's map is this one. So it's basically going, oh, sorry, did that not work? Its map goes from basically Perth, well, they say Kings Park, to Kununurra, Perth to Eucla, and Perth to Kalgoorlie, and quite a few in between. So, for instance, you've got, Brookton, Hyden, and others. So this is a different, and everything that's in blue is the Synergy, that's on the Synergy Southwest Interconnected System.
Yeah.
And then everything in the orange colour is Horizon Power, which is all of their grids and off-grid.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind that the entirety of this, with possibly the exception of the Baladonia, Kaiguna, Majura and Eucla charges, all of the others will be completed effectively by the end of this year, next year, sorry.
Next year, yeah.
So within about 15 months. But it's not the RAC highway, it's different. It's the
Yeah, it's a little
WA.
bit confused.
Yeah, we don't know the name, but if you just call it the WA Electric Highway.
Fair enough. Thanks for that.
Or whatever they call it.
E-way.
Oh, yeah, the E-way.
Remember?
Yes, the E-way. Let's hope it's not the E-way or the Magellan. It was something else. There were some great suggestions. Anyway. Whatever they actually, to be honest, I don't care what they call it. As long as they build it, it doesn't matter. It could be called anything for that matter.
As a matter of interest, are they going to have cables on that, or will you be using a Type 2?
Yes and no. So all of the fast DC charges, in fact, I'll just check. I think it was announced that
ChemPower, no?
ChemPower, that's right.
Yeah.
So
CCS and possibly Chatamo, but definitely CCS.
No Chatamo. No, thankfully no Chatamo. It'll be dual CCS outlets. So the ChemPower units, I think those units, if you look at their general specs, they put out between 75 and 150 kilowatts, and they can power share. So if there are two cars that turn up at once, you don't need a cable, because all of the there's no such thing as a CCS accessory cable. All of the fast DC chargers have the cable built in, which is why Margaret River's offline, because the plug has been smashed. So the good thing about the ChemPower units is that they can simultaneously charge two cars at once. But next to that, most of the stations will either have a single fast DC charger and a backup AC and untethered. So it's you need to bring your own cable, Type 2 to Type 2 cable, and that's really intended for backup use if the DC is failed, or I guess if it's really busy, you can always top up on the AC while you're waiting. Or if you're in a town and you want to have lunch or something, for an hour and a half or a couple of hours, and you don't want to have to rush back to your car to unplug it once it's full, you can just charge on the AC charger, which you'll need a cable, but the other DC you won't.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, we only have to wait 15 months or so for it to be complete. And obviously, between, I don't know, the end of this year or early next year and the end of next year, there'll be a progression of, units being commissioned and installed. So it's going to get good pretty quickly. And of course, on top of that, we've got Tesla. We know that Tesla is putting a supercharger in Albany, because we've seen the Albany, the minutes of the last meeting on the 27th of September, and that's going to be a 6-stall supercharger in Albany, alongside it's either one or two DC units, and it's either two DC units or one DC unit and AC unit from the EV highway. So Albany's going to be awesome. Amongst all the other places. Alrighty. Any other questions or comments? Oh, sorry.
Richard's got his hand up.
Christian's got your hand. Sorry, Richard, you just spoke. Sorry, I wasn't looking at you when I was talking to you.
No.
Oh, sorry. You're next. Go, Richard.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, I'll throw to Christian straight after.
Of course. It's Richard from Melbourne again. I'm a financial member, by the way. Thank you.
No. Thank you.
Have you subscribed to the YouTube channel?
Yes, I have actually. Good. And I've even watched a couple of the episodes. So how about that?
Richard, we're having an event in 3 weeks' time. Can you fly over for it?
I think I'll just drive over.
If you could just drive over for the weekend, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Pete, there's another car locked in.
Dear. My question is about the first of all about your I guess your sister club, Tesla Owners Club of Australia.
Yep.
They've got a membership fee of $50, so that goes to your point of the affordability of your club. But do you know if they do loaners of tyres and or portable EVSEs?
I don't know, to be honest. I was a foundation member of TOCA, but when we formed TOCWA 5 years ago, roughly, I didn't renew my membership because at the time TOCA had no relevance to us in WA. I don't know. I guess the best way is to have a look on their website or ask them. I literally don't know. We can lend you a cons charger because, for instance, is it Neil? Oh, Pete, you're on mute.
Neil Bolton.
Neil Bolton. He already has. He's actually driving with a TOCWA cons charger in his car as we speak. Well, he's probably not driving now, but he left today to go around Australia from Canberra. So I airbagged over a cons charger for him, and if you're looking at doing something similar, Richard, then we can do the same thing.
You mentioned that last week, and that's great. I'm toying with the idea of perhaps purchasing one. I guess the second question is it would it operate on a single phase socket if it's the 5-pin adapter?
You mean to say just a 10 amp single phase, or do you mean a
32 amp? Yep.
The short answer is yes. I presume that you mean that for your house as opposed to out on the road.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, it does. Yes. Yeah. So the actual EVSE doesn't care whether it's passing a single phase or 3-phase. Actually, it doesn't even care if it's passing 2 of those 3 phases. It doesn't actually care. It's the car that may or may not care. So yes, you can use it in a single phase house. You could actually get an electrician to fit, depending on your local regulations, you could get an electrician for simplicity, to fit a 3-phase socket, but only with, active and neutral connected as a single phase.
And that's what I've got at the moment.
Yep.
And I'm using the Tesla UMC.
Gotcha.
And I was thinking, because every time we travel to Ballarat or wherever we go, we have to unpack, undo all these connections and put it in the frunk, and away we go. And then there's always the danger that we'll forget it. I prefer to use the Tesla one just for traveling, or vice versa.
Yes.
And keep the other one in the car.
Yep. Gotcha. Yes.
If it is compatible with a 5-pin socket, but it's only connected to one phase.
Yes,
then
it is,
that
absolutely.
might be a viable alternative for me to buy one from you rather than to borrow it.
Yes. And but now, Richard, were you looking at going around Australia, or are you just going to go to Perth and then go back?
No, just there and back.
Oh,
Yep.
gotcha. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So, for instance, one thing that Neil's doing is he is actually borrowing a spare tire from the club, but he's actually going to collect it from Perth because he calculates that it's not so much the risk is greater going north of getting a puncture per se, but the risk of leaving your car by the side of the road in the northwest part of Western Australia and possibly the Northern Territory is greater than, say, leaving it temporarily on the Nullarbor, because the chance of damage and vandalism and whatever is sadly greater. So he's going to take the risk, if you want to call it that, across the Nullarbor, and then borrow a spare, and then he'll road freight it back to us from Canberra once he gets back home. But you've got a couple of choices. If you can't get yourself a spare, a very viable option, I think I mentioned this last week, is just one of those super cheap puncture plug kits, which, like I said, they are always classed as a temporary emergency solution, but the temporary emergency solution that I've got in my Model X has been so for the last 35,000 kilometres, and it's driven to Euclid twice on that repair, so and back to Perth, so it's very viable.
Okay, and do you know what the road freight would be on borrowing one? Oh, sorry, the freight over to Melbourne and then back, which obviously I'd need to cover.
Sorry, you mean for the
liner tire?
Oh, for a whole tire? I don't know. I dare say Neil's going to find that out when he gets back to Canberra and he gets to freight it. I really don't know. I have zero idea. It might be cheaper to use like a courier. I don't know. If you use Australia Post, I just don't know how much it would cost, to be perfectly honest. As a point of reference, go on.
I've had a look at the modern spare.
I was going to say that, yes.
And with the exchange rate and the postage and everything else, it's going to be about $1,200, I think.
Yes, unfortunately so. Yes, absolutely. Look, you can buy a rim off Tesla, and then you could just go to any tyre shop and put a cheap tyre on it, because there's no point wasting money putting an expensive tyre. You might as well put just a cheap tyre because it's only a spare. So that's a possibility. Look, I mean, Jared mentioned rim rashed exchange rims. Look, maybe Tesla has a supply of badly rim rashed
damaged
rims. In fact, I've got a spare Model X tyre, wheel. My Model X has got offset rims. They're 9.5 inches on the front and 10 on the back. So I just use the front as the spare rim or tyre because it fits front and back. And unfortunately, in the early days, Autopilot kindly binned me into a curb on an on-ramp on the freeway. So I basically lost two rims, or it rim rashed two rims on one side. So I just picked the skinnier rim and used that as a spare. So if you get a rim rashed rim, the aesthetics are immaterial. It's just a spare.
I'm in for service tomorrow for tyre rotation, so I might ask the question. But
ask him if they've got a supply of crappy rims, and you never know, they might.
What did they say? All of them.
Oh, yes.
And whoever was talking about the rim rash, I've actually purchased an aftermarket rim protector, just a little piece of plastic or something, and you have to take off the tire and pop it on and then put the tire back on. But it saved me multiple times from damaging the rim, and they don't look too bad either. So it's a possibility.
How much does it how well do they hold up, like, as they get progressively damaged? I guess they'll look crappy enough for you to have to change it, I guess.
I've knocked them a few times, and they do scuff up a little bit. And probably the worst thing is they actually start to pull out from the tire. So I've had to deflate the tire and tap it back in. But yeah, they've come off pretty well, and they're still looking okay. So and
how much are they roughly?
I think they were 65 for the set for four.
For four. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Now, funnily enough, it's only on the left-hand side that on the left-hand side, the passenger side, that it's subject to the damage, because that's where you park. So you can arguably get away with just keeping two as spares and just putting on the left-hand side, because nobody compares left and right and says, "Oh, look at that tire there." It's a bit strange. So for $65, I figure it saved me a fair bit of damage there.
Absolutely. Yeah, good idea. Good scoop. And that was Tesseraes, you said?
Tesseraes, yeah.
Yeah.
And they come in and out of stock. And when I first looked, they were out of stock. And then I just put an email bring up, and they sent me a note saying it's there, and away we went.
Yeah, cool. I'm just trying to bring up Tesseraes and see if it brings up protectors. No. It must be under rims. That's cool. But yeah, $65 is pretty good.
I think it was that, yeah.
Rim. Oh, sorry, just looking now.
It actually cost me $110 for Bridgestone to take off the wheels and take off the tires and put them all on. But I figured that was all part of the deal.
Actually, it's not Tesseraes. Because I'm just looking. I just looked up rim, and they've got wheel covers, but they don't have protectors.
There's just little circular ones that just go fit around the edge. It was definitely Tesseraes, and whether they stock them or not, I don't know.
It might come and go.
Tesseraes
for model...
New Zealand have got them. There's Chris just put the link into the New Zealand.
Gotcha.
Site. They're there.
Gotcha.
But they're not on the Australian one.
Oh, that's interesting.
Frustrating.
I definitely got them from Tesseraes. So yeah.
Cool. Now, apologies, gentlemen. I forget whether it was Christian or Mr. Grumpy that put their hand up first.
Christian.
It was Christian. Okay. Go, Christian.
Thank you. I do think, though, Mr. Grumpy was actually the first one who let Richard jump in. But I'm going to make it quick.
That's all right, Christian. You go.
Oh, thanks, Grumpy. I appreciate that. So just to give you perspective, we would like to do a little camping trip down south to Denmark. I have a 3-year-old, a 3 months old, and my wife, obviously. And before we've done the trip in a Skoda Octavia, which was a wagon, which had a bit more boot space. So what I'm basically contemplating is to either use the Tesla roof rack and get a roof box on top of it, or, and I talked to Pete about it already, but not with a trailer, but basically get a stealth hitch or a hitch installed, and then use something like an X-Rack or something like this, something that comes and gives you a bit more space to sort of put a couple more things there. I wonder if any of you guys have any experience with that and would sort of recommend one over the other. Yeah.
It's probably just easier just to check into a hotel down there. Less grief. Just save the money and check into a hotel. Yeah. Call it camping.
Christian, have you got a Model 3 or a Model Y?
Model 3.
Oh, well, there's your problem. Just go and just change it for a Model Y and you'll be all good.
Yeah, we had that conversation. Not going to happen. Man, I love the 3. I love the 3 long range. It's so quick and nice. I mean, the performance guys will be like, well, you haven't driven nothing yet. But
yeah, cool.
We've
so the
done
low cost
camping in our 3. Sorry. Yeah, we've done lots of camping in our Model 3. 2 kids in car seats at the time, big 10-person tent, camp chairs, everything really. We use the camp kitchen on site, so we don't have all camp, kitchen stuff. But it is hard to squeeze it all in. But you just have to pack like really small, like we don't have suitcases, we have the clothes in packing cubes instead, and just there's so many little spaces around the Model 3. You know, you've got the under trunk, you've got the front, you've got the footwell, especially if kids are in car seats, you've got loads of room in the footwell, and in between there's 2 car seats, all the pillows and things, sleeping bags go there. Yeah, people are quite surprised when we get to the campsite and unpack everything. It's like that all came out of that car. And we're like, yeah, including the kids as well. So it can be done. I mean, yeah, if you want to look at other options like roof boxes, but I would just give it a go and see what you can get in the car, because you might be surprised.
Oh, that's actually really good advice. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking it's like it could work out, but sort of yeah.
I think your extra would be a pram. See, we never had a pram, so
no, I wouldn't take a pram. Pram is too
well, there we
crazy.
go.
No.
You can do it. Yeah, you can do it. They're actually quite small when they're little. When they're in the car seats, there's just all that foot space because their little legs don't hang down. So there's loads of room in the footwell.
That's right. That I was thinking about that too.
So,
that's actually good.
yeah.
And then between them, I would also have some space to put something there, like something light. Obviously nothing heavy that could make a run for it.
And there's plenty of light stuff when you're camping, you know, the pillows and the sleeping bags and the blankets and all the clothes as well. If you put all the clothes in packing cubes, then there's not really much left to put in the boot, really.
And also just be careful, don't take too much food. A lot of people will take so much food.
Oh yeah, we don't do that. Yeah, buy when you get there. Yeah.
Definitely, we're not that far off Denmark, so it wouldn't be a problem. Yeah,
big IGA in Denmark. We actually did do that. We went to Peaceful Bay camping with the Model 3 and fitted everything in, and then did our food trip. We just use, I don't know what sort of campsite you're staying at, but we always use the camp kitchen, and we use the fridge in the camp kitchen, so you can you don't need to bring stuff like that.
No, we wouldn't have to do that. Actually, you're right. We would have that also available. So I guess that frees up quite a bit of space. That's true. Yeah. Does anyone, just out of curiosity, because eventually I want to get a stealth hitch installed for a bicycle carrier. So, you know, like, because that
we've got that too.
To put somewhere. So does anyone have tried to put on like one of those X racks or whatever, like a rack that kind of extends to it? Has anyone experienced here in the club with something like this?
Like a bike carrier. We have a 4-bike carrier that goes on the back of our stealth hitch. 2 kids.
Is that working well for you?
A box on the back.
Oh, is that not the same thing then? Sorry.
No, I'm just trying to look at Thorley, because Thorley obviously have all of your roof rack storage. I'm just trying to see if they've got anything for a tow hitch. I know what you mean, Christian. It's like a box that goes.
It's called X-Rack. Like someone was saying, this is like again an American company that makes these things. I'm actually not sure we could even get that in here. I was actually wondering if anyone has done something like this. So I guess the advantage to not having a trailer is like you could still back into superchargers or like back to it. It's a bit tight, but it's possible. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If someone has had something like this and has any experience with that, I was just wondering.
I think you might have issues if you block the license plate. So you might have to get a second license plate.
You can get an auxiliary plate for $20 or $30.
Plate, yeah. We had to get that for the bike rack, but you have to bear in mind it takes a few weeks, because we actually were all ready to go and thought, oh, we need this. Gave it a few days and we didn't get it in time, so we couldn't take the bike rack.
Oh, that's a good, thanks, Joe, for that. So, that is a good one.
An extra plate.
And you don't need a reason. You can just go and apply for it. You don't have to say why. You don't have to mount it on anything. They just give you the plate over the counter. It's just a basic aluminium plate.
Really good tip. Thanks, guys.
It's tiny. It's like minute little
plate. Yeah.
Yep.
That's really good. All right. Cool. Thank you.
But with
no worries.
With that box thing.
Well, hang on. Go, Joe.
With that box thing, we actually got the bike rack from the place that did the tow hitch. It was like a shop that had things that go on your tow hitch, so I don't know if they would have the box thing. Maybe
I could ask. That's a good
you
question.
could always ask. Yeah.
Yeah. Just wondering.
Joe,
Okay, so
if you go camping and you get like a little mark on your
Joe,
car,
I don't know what's coming.
could you recommend like a place to get that mark repaired? Like, is there anywhere that you'd recommend?
I think Grumpy's waiting to do his question.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Good deflection there.
Okay, so I'm gonna lower Grumpy's hand, and ask him to ask the next
lower
question.
my own hand, Harold. Thank you.
Oh well, I'm just being helpful there, Grumpy.
Oh, all right then. Now then, as you know,
Yes.
when I picked up my Model Y and I checked it over thoroughly and looked in the glove box, and there was no USB drive, and they couldn't find one. So I was getting the service guy out to fit HomeLink anyway the next week, and he brought one out with him. With my Model 3 previously, I'd had a 250 gig Samsung drive plugged into the USB socket, and every now and again it would just corrupt everything and go wrong, and I'd take it out, reformat it, and in the end I bought a 500 gig, and that was doing the same. When just intermittently, when this guy arrived, Colin, in the Model Y,
yes,
long
very
range,
nice.
which was interesting.
No one's supposed to know that, Nigel.
It was brought in for homologation purposes. He's been telling people.
No, he hasn't.
Anyway.
Don't say that. No, he hasn't.
He told me, because I'm going, what? Anyway, it wasn't Colin.
That's right.
He got the 128 gig USB drive out, went into the thing and pulled out my 500 gig. Or no, I had the 250 gig in there, I think, plugged in the 128, which is what they're supposed to come with. And he said, have you been having troubles with that? And I go, well, I did in the Model 3. And he goes, yeah, well, the USB socket sometimes doesn't like anything larger than 128.
So if you format it to a 128, it should work okay then.
I don't know. He just said 128.
That's correct.
If you put in a 256 or 500 or a 1 terabyte, it will mess up from time to time because the USB chip can't cope with it sometimes.
Nigel, I know with my micro SD cards that I use, and nothing over 400 gig will work. So the 512 gigabyte, the card doesn't even recognize, but the 400 gigabyte, it will recognize. And I haven't had any problems with with anything lower than 400 gig. So there is a 400 gigabyte you can get. Alternatively, then it's 256 or yeah.
I had a 256 one, and that started to mess up after a while. So I thought, oh, it's rooted, and I changed it over. I went and bought a 500 gig. But then when I tested out the 250, it's working fine.
So it might be worth
so messing up from time to time.
How long would it take, Nigel, for it to kind of glitch for the first time that you'd notice? I mean, is it months or is it weeks?
Look, you seem to be wanting to ask hard questions tonight. I mean, that poor bugger earlier on with his inverter had no idea. Well, I've got no bloody idea either.
Oh, roughly. I mean, was it something you noticed sort of fairly soon, or did it seem to take ages before you noticed a glitch?
I would have to say ages. Months.
Right.
Months.
Yeah.
It was
when it glitches,
I mean, I've had it for 2 3/4 years, and I would say at least half a dozen times.
So when it glitches, does it just stop recording, or does everything get corrupted that's on it?
Yeah, it becomes unavailable.
Yes.
And then sometimes I've reformatted from the screen, and sometimes it goes, no, don't like that. So I take it out, put it into my computer and mess around with it and plug it back in, and it's fine. So it was corrupting.
Could it be that it's like, I mean, these USB sticks are really not made to get that?
No,
much
this was
written on.
a Samsung SSD.
Oh, Samsung SSD. Oh, okay, I understand.
Anything
okay.
larger than 128, he said, but Pete
Which is
seems to
interesting.
have said 400. So
No, but what Pete's is saying is if you do a 500, it just won't work at all from from the start. But
Yep.
perhaps what Colin is onto, and Colin ought to know better than obviously any of us, is maybe there is a glitch. It probably works perfectly okay until it doesn't. So, one experiment to do is perhaps to down
I think I have
format
a
it
1
to
terabyte
128.
SSD. I have a 1 terabyte SSD hooked up to it. It's working just fine.
yeah, it will work fine until it doesn't, as Harold says.
Yeah.
It takes months, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it just becomes unavailable, or it's saying no, can't write anymore, and you take it out and you go, well, it's only got 128 gigs on it or whatever. So I used to unplug it, bring it into my computer and download and delete on a regular basis. But then you start to go, oh, I can't be bothered. And then when you bring it in and you're downloading stuff off it and it's taking a couple of hours to offload all the files, no, it starts to get corrupted. I don't know whether, I'm assuming the 128 gig will be fine.
Yeah, I mean, it could be worth the experiment to just format it as a 128, like your 256 SSD, and see what happens. And presumably it ought to never glitch, but that could take a long time to find that out.
I'm just wondering if you partitioned a 256 into 128, 128, and then 120. The first one is your camera files, and the second partition is your media files.
That's
now,
a
what
very
have I
good
done with that
idea.
256 gig drive?
Well, that's your problem, Nigel. We can't help you on that one.
It's around here in the mess.
So for those that aren't familiar, you can, unfortunately, for the newest cars, you actually have to run your music through your glove box USB port, because the other two front ports in the car aren't hooked up to a data hub. So the only way you can do that is do you have to petition the drive, Nigel,
yes.
or do you? Right.
No, it has
so you need
to
two
be
petitions.
separately partitioned. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So perhaps, Nigel, that's an ideal opportunity to do that if you want music in your drive as well.
I will try. And I'll report back in a few months when I've got around to doing it.
It's going to be hard to prove a negative, but yeah, we'll try. Very good. Very good. All right. So has anyone else got any other questions or comments?
Nice.
Oh, good night, Paul. I'll take that as a comment.
Well, I thought I'd say something. I'll get in. No. I'll catch up. I'll watch the rest of this at work tomorrow morning. So
yeah, no worries. Awesome.
Good night, all.
Tom's 1.5 times speed. Sounds a lot better. It's quicker.
No. I've got plenty of time during the day.
0.75 if it's detailed. All right. Okay. Anyone else with any comments, questions? Oh, no. All right. Let me think of one. I didn't have one ready. Actually, James, you put up an image for, I presume this is to load your car properly with roof racks. Or actually not just the roof racks, it's actually what you're going to put on the roof racks.
Anything that projects from the front or back of your car, apparently. Most bike racks apparently legal.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd better check the bike rack for this, but how do we know what 60% of the wheelbase is without having to go out and measure it? Does anyone know what 60%? I wonder why no one's done that.
Measure it, can type it into Google.
The wheelbase of the Model Y is about 2.9 meters or 2,900 mil. So 60% of that
is 1.74.
Yeah, I was about to say 1 3/4, give or take a bit. So it's a fairly good overhang.
Yeah.
That's 4 bikes, isn't it?
Yeah, so that will mean that the maximum can only ever be 1.2. So your maximum is 1.2.
Ah, got it.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
but it's like
interesting.
anything. I guess the law of averages says if you put an auxiliary plate on and you're not covering your brake lights, no one's going to bother you. But
yeah, so that 1.74 meters has got to be from the axle.
Yes.
Okay, or it's 1200 mil max from the back of the car.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Looking at that diagram.
And
That
the
makes
bike rack
sense,
comes
yeah.
with lights on the back anyway. It connects into a little socket thing that was installed when the tow bar was installed. So we have the lights on the outside of the bikes because it does
Yes,
cover
as
up
long
all
as
of
those lights, which are the back of the bike rack,
Yeah.
are less than 1200 mil from the back of the car.
Yeah.
Get your tape measure out, darling.
But surely they wouldn't sell it if it wasn't legal in WA, or is that not?
Not illegal to sell, it's illegal to put on a road reserve.
Right.
If you're on a farm, you can do whatever you like. Or private property.
I mean, you can buy an e-bike that will do 50 miles an hour, but it's completely illegal to
True.
use.
All these e-scooters are illegal as well, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for that, James. That's good. That's great. It's good to know. And you're right. You know, a lot of people have got illegal stuff on their cars and they probably don't even realise it.
I saw on somebody's vehicle the little fishbone lights that go down the bottom where we've got reflectors, and then they start moving with the indicator. And he was wondering if they were legal or not with those reflectors, because they're red and they're indicators, whether that's a legal thing in this country or not, or this state.
Oh, you mean the fact that they're red colour instead of amber?
And they're indicators.
And the other thing
they're addition to the orange ones that you've got.
The other thing I would think of is more important is the fact that you've then lost your retro reflectors, which is a safety feature for cars at night that don't have their parking lights on if they're on the road reserve. So it might.
I think these are reflectors as well.
Okay. Right.
They may well be reflectors, and they've got that fishbone light in them that goes across.
Yep.
The old American cars, like the Mustang and stuff like this, they would only have red indicators because and they are somewhat road legal, I assume.
Only they are, but they're also old cars, so they sort of get grandfathered, or they're low use cars or special permits to have
like
the cars.
A historic kind of a car.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Because they usually just blink the brake lights. I think that's what they do.
There's three different versions apparently in America. You can have some states you have to have orange, some states you have to have red, and that guy, there's a YouTube guy, does the technical connections. He did a whole video on it. Why American brake lights are.
He did too. I forget his name, but yeah, that's a great YouTube channel, by the way. Technology Connections, very, very good. And we won't hold the fact that he drives a Chevy Bolt against him. But yeah, great channel that.
But at least he drives an EV.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And he has to put up with the American grid system, which he valiantly tries to defend, and then he often gets a lot of comments from Australians and Europeans saying that it's a little bit rubbish. But there's always a little bit of banter on that in that channel.
Also, earlier we were talking about the ports. Have you seen the proposal for the new port in Kwinana?
The outer that's the outer harbour, isn't it? Or is it?
It's called Westport. Is the new outer thing, but the funding that they just put through this year, a couple of months ago, is for all EV trucks and vehicles in the port.
Oh, right. Oh, very good. Would that include prime movers for? Is it for sea containers as well? Oh,
yeah,
no.
So it's for sea containers. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So it's all the little trucks they have that drive around the containers everywhere. will be EVs apparently.
Yeah, right. Cool.
Until
The port is also going to be fully robotic, no wharfies.
Oof.
And it has no environmental impact.
Right. And I presume is that near the grain terminal? It's in that area, I presume. You know,
Yeah, in
where
Kwinana,
in Kwinana, the CBH grain terminal. Yeah, right. That's pretty interesting. What's the time frame on that?
I think it's going out to tender.
Oh, what I mean is, are they looking at construction or something? You know, this decade, or well, presumably this decade. But is this a multi-year project, or is this you know, don't want to do it in
multi-year, I believe. I think I've heard something 2027.
Right, so 5 years.
Yeah.
Oh well, you know, the Cybertruck will be around by then, so that might have a bit of use, or not. And hopefully the Tesla Semi. And in fact, James, that link, which I'll just not that one you just did, but this transport one, you'll notice that the maximum width is 2.5 meters, because that's the law in Australia. And obviously, the Tesla Semi is 2.55 meters. So it's really important for the government to change that to 2.55 or 2.6 like they have in Europe. So that's another little snippet of something that the federal government can do to bring in more, you know, bigger EVs.
Order my Hummer then, can I?
Sorry?
Order my Hummer in that case.
I don't know how wide a Hummer is.
I think that's 3.
In 3 meters wide.
No, I'm checking.
Ah, okay.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, because frustratingly, in the UK, you can actually order a Tesla Semi. And, you know, UK roads are a lot narrower than Australian roads. Well, lots of them. But because they've got the 2.6 meter limit and we don't yet.
So you're telling me the big road trains, like the Kenworks and stuff, they're like 2.5 meters or less?
Yes, unless they're carrying wide loads, but the actual prime mover is 2.5 meters or less. Yep.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yep.
Okay. Would have not guessed.
And it's been widely agreed by all industry players that they should increase the width to 2.55 or 2.6. And the government had there was a meeting of all the transport ministers. I think it was in July last year, and they effectively agreed that this should be progressed, but nothing's happened since to now. But presumably it's going to be soon, because this dovetails into having more access to EVs, or particularly in prime movers, such as Tesla, Volvo, and others. Because, you know, in Europe, there are a lot of electric prime movers.
Yeah.
They've got various
Mercedes
sizes.
has also just released another long range truck. I think this is really moving quickly now.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think this is an exciting space, and I think also very important. And I mean, there's a lot of inner city traffic also that could be solved with something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's something that the government needs to do.
It'll take the government 12 months to write the amendments to the regulations.
Or even the green paper or the white, no, which goes first? The green paper's first, and then you have to write a white paper, and then you get onto it.
Then there'll be 4 committees.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
good news, I can buy my Hummer. The Hummer is 2,200 millimeters wide.
Oh, they're skinny as, James,
Yeah.
so no problemo at all.
Half a metre wider than a Ford Ranger.
Oh, so a Ranger is 1800 roughly, or
Yep,
1700.
Ranger 18, yeah.
Yeah, right. Now, something I should have mentioned a lot earlier, and before I do forget, I'd like to encourage everyone, if you just Google Tesla Perth, and then you'll see you've got this right-hand pane which has reviews. Please, please, if you've had any experience with Tesla at the Osborne Park retail outlet, or you've just bought a Tesla, or you've just received one, please write a review so that you can counter some of these seemingly interesting reviews where it says, you know, I was asked to choose a location on the map and then return, and that the person got a 1 star, or Tesla got 1 star for that. So it seems that there are quite a few people motivated to write crappy reviews. You know, here we go. I went for a test drive. No one sat with me through the test drive. And it's like, that's because, you know, that's actually a great feature. You don't get pestered by a greasy salesperson that's trying to continually tell you how awesome the car is that you're currently driving. So I'd like to encourage everyone to please write a review, and an honest and frank one, obviously, of your experience, and whether that's buying the car, getting a car serviced, or whatever, so that the weight of proper reviews will overcome some of these clearly skewed reviews that are intended just to reduce Tesla's average score. So
I just checked, I've already
awesome.
done one. I didn't remember doing it, but I've done one before.
Oh, well, there you go. Awesome.
Yeah, 11 months ago it did. I've done it. Yeah. I'm above you. 5 stars, the same as you.
Oh, right. Yeah, cool. I did mine 5 days ago.
Oh, but, okay. Yes, it does. But I was fair income. The service was fantastic. Yeah. And
exactly.
everything about them, it was so good.
There's people going around paying for people to do video reviews on Tesla set to a script that is detrimental to Tesla. They'll just wondering if people are going around paying people to give them 1 star reviews just because they're a-holes.
Yes, and Tesla, when you look at the reviews, it's interesting because here we go. From Mark Settler, I compare my experience with the Tesla dealership like a 200-meter race. They get a DNF, as in did not finish. Forget the Tesla. Go up the road to Kia and try an EV6, and you won't look back. Trust me.
Wow.
You know, I wonder, you know, why someone called Mark would be motivated to say that.
Not hard to guess that he's a salesman for Kia.
Yeah,
could be, but it could also be like this whole, like, you guys, you know, the Android versus iOS. It's like some people are very, very biased to one way versus the other. I think this could also play a bit into that.
Yeah, but Android and iOS are similar. There's nothing similar between Tesla and any other EV.
Have you driven one of the the Ioniq 5 or the what is it, the 6 from Kia?
Yes, EV6. No, I've sat in both. I haven't driven either of those two, but I drove the Mercedes EQC, which is like $110,000, $120,000 car, and my summary of that was that it's half the car at twice the price.
Oh, wow.
It just had, the finish, you would think Mercedes, would have a great interior finish. The plastics just seemed really thin. They were squeaky. They just felt cheap. The tech was quite old, you know, very different sort of cockpit, you know, the traditional sort of, you know, lots of gauges and everything else. But yeah, the acceleration, you can't compare. The handling, it seemed to be, you know, moving around from side to side a lot more, swaying a lot more than the Model Y. The range is less. You don't get autopilot or full self-driving. I can keep on going, but yeah. In summary,
that's interesting.
Half the car for at least 50% more cost. So
yeah.
Yep, and well, Ken drove the Audi e-tron, took it for a test drive because
I drove that well on the track, and yeah.
Yep, so he's an old Audi sort of buyer. He used to buy Audis regularly until he went to the Tesla, and he said he had a 6-word review, and his review went like this: I really wanted to like it. And that was his review. And unfortunately, a bit like what Pete said, it doesn't have autopilot. It's just got all these knobs and buttons and plastic and stuff, and didn't have proper maps, wasn't going to get proper maps. He just really wanted to like it, but that was all he could say.
Doesn't have the charging network. You don't get free over-the-air updates. I can keep on going, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, I know from some people that got the ID3 or ID4 and stuff like this, so they're just not crazy about the capacitive touch buttons, and then they're like not lit up in the dark, and I mean, they're like all these kind of things. Just didn't know like how sort of the Kias or the Hyundais, like how they compare to. Read some reviews, and like I'm pretty open-minded. I find the interface for the Tesla amazing, and it's really responsive and quick, and honestly, I'm not really missing many buttons, I have to say. Like, it's really, really brilliant. But I think I can see also other people was like, well, maybe I want a couple more, or like I want like faster charging or something like this. Although it's pretty theoretical over here in Western Australia. But they are built on the 800-volt architecture. So in principle, they could top up a bit quicker. So there is something to that for some people. But I agree. I mean, with how these cars are built, like the 3 and the Y especially, it's like you just don't need that much more. I could not do a brake any quicker. Like I can't. Like, I don't know.
Good night, Grumpy. Good night, Nigel.
Yeah, good night, all.
But yeah, totally agree, Christian. It's and look, it's funny you mentioned charging speed. I mean, the Porsche Taycan was infamous for being able to charge at least 250 kilowatts.
350.
And then now
350 kilowatts. Yeah.
Sorry, 350. But Porsche have now come out with a free downgrade of the charging rate to 200 kilowatts.
Really?
And
I did not know that.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they've described it for owners who would like to take better care of their batteries, which is code for if you don't want to kill your battery, do the downgrade, and your battery pack will last a lot longer, and it's a free downgrade. So, of course, they can always claim the maximum record charging that no one should ever use, because you can't defy physics. And the physics is if you jam it too hard, you're going to break it.
Well, there was this new paper right now. I just want to say that like there is somewhere. So there was this new paper that came out, a scientific report that says like there is some way to faster charge and not do enough damage. But I think it needs a certain protocol for this to do. So there might be some capacity there.
No, it's not a protocol. It's a charging algorithm. So they've said that you can tailor the algorithm according to the chemistry and the type of car, but I haven't read the paper, but I think they describe it in terms of you very carefully match the rate at which you're charging with the various either temperature and state of charge of the pack and its characteristics. And it might be that you can charge in waves. You sort of, it's almost like waves, waves crashing on the beach. You might sort of put in a pulse of charge and then maybe let it relax and then do another pulse, or you might do quite hard at the very start and then relax a bit. And there's all these interesting algorithms, but it's actually all they have to do, and they said it doesn't need any different hardware, because it's the car that actually tells the charger what to do. So the car tells the charger effectively what voltage to present to the charge port, because the current going into the battery is proportional to the voltage. So that's all the car does. The car controls the charging, not the charger. So yeah, that was very interesting work that they've done, and it's the great thing is you can do it for free, because it just requires a different algorithm.
Yeah, it could be a software update, or it could be something.
Exactly.
I mean, I think Tesla's already pretty damn good at this, because they really, I think they max out what is healthy for the cells, and they've also, I mean, there's a couple comparisons that I found quite interesting, that people who do a lot of supercharging over time, that they actually haven't that much more degradation than people that do all the time trickle charging. It's much more like what the range is, like how often you go to 100% seems to be like much more detrimental than actually the fast charging. Was quite surprised about it, but I think, I mean, with Tesla, I mean, you guys mentioned before, they have so much data on it. They have so much real world, like keep measuring it. So I think this is much more mature.
Just one little thing you just mentioned is charging to 100%. That is relevant if you have a long range car or an older standard range car with the NCA batteries. And to tell the difference, you just look on your charging screen, and if it has the words daily and trip on the setting, that means you should really charge your car at 90%. But if the little tick marks have got nothing else, then you can charge to 100% all day, every day. So just putting in that little clarifier there, just in case people get confused. But yeah, so Christian, you mean, because Sean Mitchell, he's got an older Tesla, and he actually got his battery pack replaced. And it was because he's a real estate agent in Colorado, I think, Denver in Colorado. And he would often supercharge to 100% and, run his car down. And that killed his battery pack, which he had to get replaced. But that's the other chemistry. That's the NCA chemistry, not the LFP. That, for instance, all the Model Ys on the road today in Australia are the LFPs, and all the standard range Model 3s are the LFPs. And you can charge them to the new ones. You can charge them to 100% all day, every day. But yes, certainly a super interesting article or research paper, Christian, that they've done. And yeah, if Tesla aren't already doing something very similar, I'm sure they probably will, if they have learnt anything from it. But the other car makers definitely, hopefully they will learn from it and, get faster speeds, because you don't want cars hanging around longer than they have to.
Going the other way, how bad is it with it sitting at like 10% overnight quite often?
It's not ideal.
I haven't really looked at the LFPs. I know LFPs are a lot more forgiving than the NCAs. The NCAs really like to live
the old
between...
ones or the new ones. So I don't remember. So my Model 3 or my one, I'm talking about the 3, the one that you can't charge to 100%.
You've got the same.
Yes. Yeah. So 10%'s not great, although the car does protect itself because it turns off, it actually will stop using power. So it turns off the 12-volt battery charger.
And it also messages us and says, this is not good.
Yes. So then you've got to tell your renting people.
We have.
Yeah. So look, and
it's just happening again tonight. That's the problem. And I'm like, we message them again and say, look, Tesla are giving us this message. We're giving you this message. Charge it up.
So I guess it gets down to the point of a hire car. If you think of your car as your second baby, that you want to make a little bit of side hustle, but it's still your baby, then you need to just sell your baby. Well, you don't sell your baby, but you need to adopt out your baby.
Get someone else to look after it better.
Yes. Yeah. So if YouTube, I don't want the YouTube algorithm to accuse us of of child trafficking or whatever. But you need to sell the baby on, or if you treat it as a business and you say, I want to make money out of this, if that's possible to make money out of it, then you just go, well, that's just a cost of business. You're going to accept that you're going to, most of the people renting are unsophisticated EV owners, well, because they're not EV owners, because they're renting one. And that's just what happens, and if you just accept that it might cost, I don't know, $1 worth of damage to the battery or something, I don't know, then you just say, well, that's just the cost of business. But if you want to treat your second car as a baby, or, as a pride and joy, then
don't give it to anyone else.
Don't give it to anyone else. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
I
mean, we've kind of fallen out of love with it, but I just don't want it to get completely ruined. Because you know what happened with the previous ones? We went the other way.
Yes.
Hire cars are the fastest on the road.
Huh?
Hire cars are the fastest car on the road, and no one can beat a hire car. And
that's right.
Yeah, I can tell you that as well. I hope we don't get these speeding fines, because
oh well, they get the fines, but people just do not respect it if they're not paying for it. Well, if they don't own it, they just treat it like dirt. It's a fact of life, unfortunately. I hate to see it, but it's what they do.
Hire cars go further and faster than even company cars.
They do. They do.
Okay, sorry. So, Paul, you've got your hand up. So you've got a question.
Yeah, got a question. So I ordered a wall charger because there's nothing coming with the wire that I'm getting. And what I'm thinking of doing, so I can use it everywhere and take it with me, is you make it as a portable unit with a cord extension socket out the bottom with a 5-pin on it, and then make up a series of adapters. When you commission those, you have to program in the input, I should imagine, or does it automatically recognise what's coming in?
No. So first point is the high power wall connector, the HPWC, the Tesla wall connector, is specifically not designed for mobile use. So the electronics haven't been ruggedized as would, say, the UMC. So I know of 2 people personally that have done exactly what you're proposing, and I think Rob Dean's one failed in Halls Creek. I think it was Halls Creek. Stopped working, and then another gentleman whose name now escapes me, his unit also failed while on a road trip. So they're not really intended to be jiggled around in the back of a boot or whatever. Look, if you do it on a road trip, it's probably okay, but then sometimes people will do that quite a lot. So what I'm saying is it's off-label to use it in that way. To answer the other part of your question, the HPWC has no idea what's connected to it, and it kind of doesn't care. There are rotary switch settings inside where the electrician is supposed to, indicates to the HPWC what power it's allowed to get the car to draw. And that's to do with the circuit breaker that's been installed for that unit. Again, if you're using it off-label and you've got a 32 amp plug into a 32 amp extension socket connected to a 20 amp plug or 15 amp plug, then you've got to tell the car to draw less. But if you forget, if you forget, you'll very happily pull 32 amps if it's single phase through a 10 amp socket. And if you don't melt the cable, you probably won't, because actually you might melt your cable, but the circuit to the building will trip so as not to melt the building's cable.
I thought it might have been required programming. The only reason why I'm going to do it is if I need it. I'm not going to carry it with me all the time. I'm going to leave it in the garage, but it just saves me having to outlay the money for another one at this stage.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, so have you paid for one already, Paul? Have you?
Sorry?
Have you got a destination charge already? Have you? wall connector.
I've ordered one. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, you might be able to cancel the order if you're going to be doing lots of travelling outside of Perth, where you want a proper 3-phase charging. Just get a cons charger instead, and that way you can leave it plugged in your garage and use that as your daily charger while you have your UMC in the boot all the time. And when you go on a trip, you just unscrew it from your 3-phase socket and take it with you. And that's fully designed to be portable.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've already ordered it from Tesla.
You might still be able to cancel it.
Yeah. I got a funny feeling it's actually been shipped. I'll have a look anyway. Who does the cons charges?
We do. So the club, if you just send a email to secretary@tokwa.org.au, or you can just ring that 62623131 number.
Okay. I'll have a look at
But
that.
yeah,
Thanks.
obviously, if it's already been shipped, I mean, that's fair enough. And it is fine. Like, I mean, it does work as a plug, but it is off-label. So, but that's cool.
The number of trips I'm going to do a minimum. I just thought it would just save me that extra outlay to have that ability.
Well, the other option is you can put it up for sale on the Tokwa website, and I think they're $750. Maybe advertise it for $700 and say it's in an open box, and it'll probably get snapped up fairly quickly. So it will only cost you $50 then.
Yeah, I'll try for $750.
Oh, you probably won't get it, but yeah.
Well, you never know if Tesla are short on stock, which happens from time to time. So
I'll wait till I see there's no stock available.
Yeah.
Yes, and then the price goes up, which is a bit like what dealers have been doing with Model Ys. They've been procuring Model Ys, and I think Scarborough Toyota's got 3 of them. And
it could be if the US dollar is getting stronger and stronger and the Aussie dollar is getting weaker and weaker, you might be onto something, Paul.
Yeah, because the price could be going up. That's right.
I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the dollar zoomed up to 64.8 cents today, which is not fantastic.
The number of Model Ys on the road is incredible. Like, they've only been in Australia a short time, but I don't go out without seeing at least 1 or 2. They're everywhere at the moment, which is fantastic to see. I think I saw about 5 today. So they're really getting
5 Model Ys, Peter.
Beg your pardon?
Were they all Model Ys, the 5 that you saw?
Oh, I saw at least 5 Model Ys and several Model 3s. I cannot believe the number of Model Ys getting around. They're everywhere.
In 3 weeks' time, there's going to be another shipload dumped here.
Yeah,
it's literally a shipload. So using our trusty Tokwa YouTube channel, you can see the video at the port. It was 459 Model Ys, and then that was preceded a week earlier by 334 Model 3s.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many come off this time.
Well, you'd have to guess it'd be a similar amount, at least.
If not more.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I think it was New South Wales, wasn't it, that I think this, or must have been last month, I assume, was over 4,000 landed.
Yep.
Yes, and in fact, Vita Prime has actually...
It made the ABC News today.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Ah, cool. I'm just trying to find where... Here we go. Just trying to find... I've got to look at Rob Dean's... actually, let's look at Vita Prime. Vita Prime. He updated his graph only a few hours ago. Oh, here it is. Which is...
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Australian Tesla production shipped. And this is just this. Oh, sorry. This is if I try and here we go, make it a bit bigger. So in 2022, obviously more than 2021, and we're not even there yet. But look at the difference between 2020. You know,
That's incredible.
And you know, when I got my Model X, well, that was shipped in 2016. You know, and that's just like a rounding error. You know, compared to what's happening just this year, and we're not finished yet. And according to, as we know, according to Robin Denholm, when she said in the middle of this year that there were 26,500 Teslas in Australia, and she then went on to say that she wouldn't be surprised if that number doubled by the end of this year. Well, that graph is showing that that's well on track.
Yep.
That's well on track.
Did I miss it, or did you guys already talk about the next Model 3 and Ys having no ultrasound sensors? Did we talk about this already?
It was in the news. Yeah, I spoke to it in the news.
Yeah, so do you guys know if they will get some extra cameras or something like this? I just have a hard time fathoming how it would sense objects that are shallow in front of you, that you may not see yourself, like how vision will be able to track where something was or is in relationship to where you are when it has no visual cue anymore. I'm a bit concerned.
So you should be concerned, not because of that reason, because what the car actually does, and this was explained on AI Day last week, and I think they even mentioned it previously, is with the occupancy network, what it does is it actually remembers, it has a time memory and a distance memory. So it'll remember, for instance, as you come out to an intersection, if it sees there's a left turn arrow on the road, and that then goes, the car runs over it and it's behind it, it will still remember what that arrow was, so it knows what this lane is intended for. But it also, as you're approaching an object, it can see it in the distance, it gets closer and closer, and then even though it gets out of view, it still remembers that that thing is still there. So that's not a problem generally when you're even doing parking maneuvers, because the car gets a fairly good view of what's in front of it before it gets close to it. The thing that worries me is, imagine that you reversed your car into your carport and you've turned the car off, and then a 2-year-old or an 18-month, or say a 2-year-old toddler walks or crawls or something in front of your car.
Yeah.
You then, unknown to you, you then turn your car on. Well, the camera that's mounted right at the top of the windscreen cannot see in front of the bonnet, and you just drive forward and you kill a child. Right? It only has to happen once.
Even the reversing camera, because that's on the boot, let's say the boot was open, then that camera is pointing towards the sky, so it's not going to be able to see pets or toddlers or babies or what have you.
That's right.
And you can, at the moment, you can move the car with the boot open. So maybe they change it so they have to put the boot down. But by that time, that toddler could literally be right behind the wheel. And even that fisheye camera, I mean, it's pretty good. It can actually see your number plate. That's how wide it is. But even that might not be able to see the baby, or definitely not be able to recognize it. Or what could happen is, yes, it's got memory, and yes, it's got predictive functionality. So even if an object is obscured by a bus or what have you, it will predict that it's going this way, and then it's obscured that it's going to keep on going that way.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, which is great. But what if there's a obstruction in place? What if there's someone's put a portable table down or something? and the baby crawls or whatever gets under there. So yeah, that's that's what the ultrasonic sensors do, but where a camera can't. Now that said, they might be able to, maybe they'll put an extra fisheye camera right down on the grill and or into the bumper bar on the back, in which case perfectly fine. But with the cameras that are just the cameras that are there at the moment, you definitely got to say that's a risk.
I reckon
I'm glad you guys feel the same way, because it was like
see-through fog.
Yeah, sorry.
So
I'm
who said
sure
that?
those things would have been taken into consideration when they do their risk analysis on those situations. And I'm sure, when you look at what they do in that, when you listen to them about the AI at the AI Day the other day, the research and the trials that go into it, these things must be part of their risk analysis, I'm sure.
But it's very hard for a visual camera to see through fog, and that's, I think, the big factor. If you've ever been in fog, it's just a disaster. You can't see a thing.
Well, I had
Peter,
that
I'm
driving
100%
into.
with you. I drove in some very gnarly conditions, also in Germany, with snow and fog, as you said. And honestly, like, if there was any other technology that would augment, and like there could be like a car that's like broken down somewhere, like having that extra sensing. I'm all for vision, don't get me wrong. I think this is brilliant technology and has a lot of advantage, but there are a lot of scenarios where you could augment with another sensor for those scenarios where vision is troublesome.
Well, I drove out into Canberra and it was quite foggy, and the car freaked out because I've got Tesla Vision in the Model Y, and it basically slowed right down. And then it actually disconnected. It just turned off. But no,
I think
there's
that's
nothing on
telling you
Tesla's.
something, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Tesla's website shows no indication whatsoever of there being an additional camera, such as, for instance, the Porsche Taycan has got one right on the grille, right at the very front, fisheye lens. And there's nothing in the support page which describes Tesla doing this, replacing the ultrasonic sensors. There's nothing in here that says that they're adding extra cameras or keeping any of the ultrasonic sensors. They are deleting all the rear ones and all the front ones. And they're even saying that...
Well, there are no others, are there? There's 4
no,
at the back,
that's it.
4 at the front.
No, I think there's more. There's 18.
12, I think.
12, sorry, no, 12. Yeah, 12.
Yeah.
So basically, and they're even saying that Park Assist, Auto Park Summon, and Smart Summon is coming soon if you don't have the ultrasonic sensors, because they've got to prove that it works. But it's...
I think I
of
read
all the
where
costs...
if there's ultrasonic sensors in the models that are coming at the moment in the Ys, they've got them. If they've got them, they will still use them until they actually stop actual installation of them.
They actually said that will vehicles equipped with ultrasonic sensors have their functionality removed, and they say at the moment they don't plan to.
Yeah.
But again, they also didn't necessarily plan to turn off the radars of the fleet cars, but now they have. Or they are, sorry, they are turning them off. Which is why if you've got Tesla Vision, you've got to put up with the fact that you've got to have auto high beams in the city, which are illegal, to the best of my knowledge, and you've got to have auto wipers if you use autopilot with Tesla Vision.
I've read a lot of articles about that.
Yeah, it's not fantastic.
And the auto high beams, like as you guys said, like it's not great yet. I hope they can improve that. But honestly, sometimes I feel like, that little sensor, like, what is that, like $1 or $2 really for them to put in there? Like, it can't be that much at that scale. It's like it would solve things like this.
The reason why they don't want it is, I think Elon's expressed this on Twitter numerous times, is he doesn't want, he said the sensor fusion is, doesn't really work well. So, because you might have one thing that, we have one sensor that says one thing, another sensor that says another thing, and then which one do you go with? So, and the cameras are superior, but if that's if that's the case, that's fine. Just put a fisheye on each bumper bar.
But not under all circumstances. I agree under, like, when you have good vision, like our eyes, right? When we have good vision, we're really good drivers, right? But as soon as the like a scenario deteriorates, right, where you have to slow down. I'm not saying like I want to drive at 610 kilometers an hour. You have to slow down, but you obviously would still get an extra safety feature if you had the opportunity to see something in front of you that was like really severely compromised, So I'm
one of the advantages that the radar has, for example, and this happened to me on the Mitchell Freeway. All of a sudden, the car just didn't lock them up, but almost locked up the brakes. So it was a really hard brake. And I just remember just going forward thinking, this is a really bad shadow phantom braking. I was about to override it and press the accelerator. And then I noticed smoke coming, not from the car in front of me, but from the car in front of that car. So what the car was doing was using the radar to bounce the beam off the ground from under the car in front of me to pick up the car in front of that. And there's no way I would have been able to press the brake in time. So it was quite incredible. Now, Elon said on Twitter that would still be possible because they would still, there's 3 front cameras and there's 2 on the side. So there's 5 forward-facing cameras, and one of them would have vision of that car in front of the other car. But, but
look, it simplifies coding. I write some software myself. It's like, I completely understand this. It simplifies it. It can it just runs on that framework, and you don't have to integrate, do this sensor fusion stuff. Completely get it. But I do think there could be to future-proof yourself, you could sort of add sensors into it to just sort of fortify it, make it stronger under circumstances where you would have a problem with just vision by itself. And that sort of goes in the same direction as you guys rightfully pointed out, is if there was now you're taking the ultrasound sensors away. If there was something that enters at the point where it doesn't have the memory, it has changed since that memory, it's blind to that, and kids and other it's just something I'm it's kind of solved. I'm just wow, yeah.
If we take this conversation now and go back and go a forward 1 year, we would look back at this conversation and say, well, yeah, we found something else that overcame that problem, and we'll be talking about some other problem that's hypothetically going to affect us. The changes are so rapid that, we won't even know what we were talking about.
Well, let's hope.
Yeah, go on, Pete. Oh, I was going to say, look, I hope you're right, Paul. As far as I'm concerned, why not just do something like this, which is, this is what the Taycan, or I think it's a Taycan, it's got a fisheye camera right in the very front, so therefore it can see everything that's in the front, whereas that in the camera up where the Teslas have it,
that's right,
cannot see what's sitting here. And the issue wasn't so much that the car can't see it from a distance; it can't remember what is there 10 meters in front of it in 5 seconds time. The issue that the scenario that worries me, and it's so easily done, is the car's turned off. Now, we know that if the car, in order for the autopilot computer, full self-driving computer, to know or remember that there was something in front of the car, it has to be on. Now, the thing is, we know it's off if you've got Sentry Mode turned off, because that's the whole point. Sentry Mode costs 250 watts which is continuous, which is 6 kilowatt hours in a 24-hour period. So the whole reason why you actually set exclude home for sentry mode if you've got a secure garage is to save power. So again, you can't have your cake and eat it. You either have to run the full self-driving computer 24/7, and if you do, it's going to cost the owner an average of $1 a day in electricity, or you accept that it's turned off. And like I said, the scenario is super simple. The car is off, it's facing forwards. A kid or something important goes in front of the car, low down. You then turn the car on. The car looks at its environment and goes, I can see everything that it can see. You drive forward. There is no other sensor. There's nothing else. You will run over whatever's in front of you, and the car won't know it's there.
I can see it, yeah.
So that's, and look, let's just, I find it hard to believe that some engineer at Tesla didn't say, yeah, but. Or just do this. Put a camera in the front.
Maybe they will.
But there's no indication they're doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, put one in the front bumper bar, put another one in the back bumper bar, and it wouldn't have to be a high-resolution, expensive camera. It could be a
short range. Yep.
Yeah, short range. It could be they're going to be making 2 million cars a year. They'll probably get them for a couple of bucks, and I know if they've got to spend $5, that's $10 million a year, but it's almost a $1 trillion company now. So, Harold and I were having this conversation earlier today, and Harold made a good point. The one death, the one toddler or one kid that he drives over.
It will.
It's going to be a disaster.
And it'll cost them a lot more than the $10 million in savings.
Well, you won't be able to fix that recall with a software update.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So imagine, oh man, let's just not go there.
Let's not go there. But I think it's important to just see if you guys think it's the same way. And I think there is this hypothetical, and it just takes this one weird scenario, right? And then it's like, you can't undo.
Yeah.
Have you raised this with Tesla?
Oh, no. Well, it's only just happened in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, 24 hours.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's literally only just come about. In fact, I wrote that article, well, I put it in the news this morning. So I was only aware of it this morning. So there's and look, to be brutally honest, as much as we've got and we do have very effective communications with Tesla Australia, there's almost no way that even Tesla Australia has any sway on the design team that's doing the car design. Tesla Australia's function is to facilitate the delivery of cars and the maintenance of cars, not to suggest to engineers how to design a car. So even if, I've already seen memes, on social media and other communication streams where, they're just going, what the hell's Tesla doing? Like even, the Europeans are besides themselves, going, what's
that's
going
where
on?
the market will the market effect will come from, is from Europe, because they have the EU have a lot of sway in setting regulations. And
well, I wonder about NCAP and ANCAP. I'm pretty sure that ultrasonic sensors are actually a requirement to get certain star ratings because they are pedestrian active defense devices, and sadly, how many times do you hear in Australia a toddler being run over by their parents' car? And it's a terrible tragedy.
One a year. At least
much more than I think, one every couple of months in Australia. And it's a terrible, terrible tragedy. And
that's what they bought in. That's why they bought in reversing cameras in vehicles as a standard, for that reason.
Yep.
All new cars have that.
In fact, I've just bought one of my kids. Well, I've ordered sadly a petrol Kona, because as we know, the electric ones are far too expensive. and I just got the base model, but I'm actually getting ultrasonic sensors fitted to it, because even though there is a reversing camera, it's only good if you look at it. And if you're not looking at it,
it doesn't give
it's
you an
no
alarm.
use to you.
No.
Yeah, so if you're looking somewhere else, at least, yeah, that's right, there's no alarm.
Yeah. How many people use the reversing camera? Most people use the mirrors. It's only when you use your reversing cameras when you're sort of trying to get close to a wall or something like that.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So, look, I think personally, I just can't. Look, delete them from the back. No worries, because you've got the fisheye camera. Like Pete said, if you lift the boot up, it'll just refuse to go into reverse or whatever. But either put one or two ultrasonics, keep one or two ultrasonics in the front, or put a camera. But don't just delete it and say that the three front cameras are, near the driver's head have got any chance of seeing an edge case situation.
I just don't understand like the reasoning other than if it's a financial one, because it's a system they have clearly used. It's proven, they have implemented, they have written the software for it, and it's working. It shows the distance. Although someone on the Model Y was saying they've had some issues with their ultrasonic sensors, sometimes not giving the distance. I think Colin Burke or something like this was messaging that in the Slack, in the WA Slack, Tesla Slack thing. I did some tests, but in general, I mean, I can only speak of for my 3. I get all the distance. It's working. Like I don't see the reason why to engineer something else there when it's already working.
Especially since there's no sensor fusion issue, because while you're driving, you can just turn it all off because you're driving. It's only when you're doing slow speed maneuvers.
That's right.
That you need.
Anyway, look. Let's just hope.
Yep.
Oh, who knows?
Anyway, I've got to pull the plug because my battery's just about flat.
Yeah, no worries, Paul.
I've got a very important golf game at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'll catch you guys again.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us, and really appreciate seeing you. Take care.
Yeah, Paul. Thanks for coming on.
But yeah, let's hope. Well, remember, Tesla has done backflips before. Elon Musk did announce on Twitter that virtually every Tesla retail outlet would close. And there was a big hoo-ha about it. This was a couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago, that he basically said that virtually all of the retail outlets would close and everything would just go to the virtual Tesla online store, and that was it, to buy cars. And of course, that was turned around, and Tesla have got more outlets now than they ever have. So, I don't know. I mean, there are cars being built today that don't have ultrasonics.
Yeah, there might be some thinking about it, but I think you're also right. I think in terms of those safety ratings and safety things, especially, I mean, they also advertise with that. And I mean, honestly, I think a lot of us, that's also a good point for buying these cars, because they're so incredibly safe and a good investment for keeping your family safe. But I think this will be something that we'll have to see. Maybe I don't see it, but it's like, I think the front is a problem. Like without a camera upgrade, I just don't see how it could do that.
Yep.
I cannot imagine doing a camera upgrade, because you've got 2 different types of software. You've got the cars with the front camera, the cars without. I'm not saying it's good to remove them, but you're saying put a camera in, but then you got a whole lot of millions of Model Ys, Model 3s without a camera, so that software is forked. You've got 2 different softwares. So, but as you say, I do believe they're building them now without ultrasonic. It's a done deal. If you read.
Oh yes, they've said so. They said early. It actually says early October.
But not, I think just for US, right? Did I read it right? The Asian market and stuff?
No. here it is. So starting in early October 2022, all Model 3 and Y built for the North America, Europe, Middle East and Taiwan. It's really strange actually, because by the way, the Model Ys that are going into Taiwan are coming from Fremont, believe it or not.
No, they're coming from Berlin.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry. The Model Ys are coming from Berlin. The
Yeah.
Model 3s are coming from Fremont. Sorry, apologies. There are no Teslas going into Taiwan from Shanghai, even though Shanghai produces 3s and Ys. You're right. Sorry, Christian, you're dead right. So Model Ys from Brandenburg to Taiwan and Model 3s from Fremont to Taiwan. Middle East, I think they're from Shanghai. And in Europe, the 3s are coming from Shanghai. So what's weird is Australia isn't mentioned, which is strange, nor Japan or New Zealand. So I wonder if that's because of the Australian regulations or something, I don't know, but they haven't done it yet. But clearly the Fremont built cars and the Shanghai built cars and the German built cars, they've stopped putting, well, they are about to stop putting sensors in the Model Ys and 3s. Because it says we'll continue this rollout with 3 and Y globally over the coming months, and then later S and X in 2023.
Harold, how do you feel about the price tag of your eggs and not having these sensors in there? I just find it this is just a bit much. I don't know.
That's another thing. With the Falcon Wing doors, there's a few things. There is a sensor they will have to keep in the car, almost certainly, there's one in the roof, because the Falcon Wing doors come up and it measures the distance between the top of the car and the ceiling.
Right.
So if the ceiling is low, like in a garage, it won't put its Falcon Wing doors up as high. And I doubt you could do that with a camera, although you might be able to, because, again, you don't have to, a ceiling doesn't suddenly come down usually.
That's right.
Although, if you had like a roller door, if you had a flow through design and you had a roller door or a sectional door that retracts, it comes down about a foot below the ceiling. So there could be issues there, but maybe they'll keep that sensor in the roof, and then they might keep the sensors in the Falcon Wing door, which is a very special, expensive sensor that literally, it's the only one in the world that is bonded to the door skin, and it actually yells very loudly out the door skin and then picks up the reflection coming back. It was very exotic technology that they used. It's a world first, because Elon Musk did not want to have that sensor dot in the middle of the Falcon Wing door. He just said that was just too much. It was too ugly to look at. So he made them find the solution. So yeah, maybe Christian, they'll still keep sensors in the doors, but they'll probably delete them everywhere else.
Well, that's what they wrote. Well, I guess for Australia, I think for the upcoming ones, like also the performance Model Ys and stuff that should come in, I think they should still have it. I mean, based on that. But yeah, I don't know, like if they're also gonna work around that at some point. I guess they would want to unify this worldwide.
Yeah. It's just strange that Australia, it's almost like in fact, like they say, it's basically, oh, sorry, where is it?
Well, they say globally,
So North America, Europe, Middle East, Taiwan, well, there's not much else. There's Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and not much else. So it is strange. We're almost the lucky ones. Oh, China. They don't mention China. So that's they're not doing it in China. So China's a big market. Yeah.
It's a big market. Yeah.
So anyway, let's just hope with hindsight that this was not a big mistake. Let's hope.
Has anyone noticed, talking about Tesla Vision, since the last update, the lane keeping is quite aggressive now when you drift towards the white lines on the side of the road? Seems to really jump up in the last.
You mean if you're not in autopilot, so if you just let it drift naturally?
If you're not in autopilot, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's really starting to. I've noticed it so much in the last week with my wife in the 3, we just did the update in the 3. You have it close to the edge in a corner, or it's really aggressive now doing that. So.
Yeah, right. Look, to be honest, I hardly ever, and I mean this honestly, I hardly ever drive my car in anything but autopilot. Like, as soon as I can enable it, it's on, regardless of where it is. Even if I trick it, where sometimes you have like residential roads where there's no divider, but you have like a little island that has like a couple of lines, and I'll just engage it and then militantly watch it dance around the road when there's no line markings. So I hardly ever use it without autopilot.
Yeah, we're going down Tonkin, and all that roadworks, and it was like screaming all over the place in that stay in lane, and the lines were doing this.
Yeah.
That's right, James. Same thing here. I'm living next to it in Bayswater, and because they keep changing, and there's many lines, and it's been yelling at me for a couple times, even without having autopilot. Because honestly, it's just so much confusion. I'm not sure how well autopilot would actually handle that, because it's a mess, and it keep even changing where it's supposed to come off. I noticed it too. It was like, oh, keep the lane. Was like, well, that is the new lane.
I've driven Leach Highway where they're doing all the mods, and it does amazingly well. And you can see all the blacked out lines that used to be white lines, and there's and in certain light that looks quite bright, and it's amazing that it works at all. It does a really good job. And Andre Karpathy, when he was talking about it, he said the thing you have to remember is every time the car drives down that piece of road, it's the first time it's ever driven there, because there is zero memory, zero mapping. So it has to work everything out for the first time. So even though we're familiar with it, the car has never seen it before, which is amazing.
That's it. They're going to be looking at bringing in mapping for potholes and things, so you can remember
with fleet knowledge, so one car can report to all the other cars that there's a pothole.
Yeah,
which will be that'll be awesome. Yeah,
that'll be really
awesome.
Cool. Yeah, 100%. I also have to say the recent, it's a bit of a joke, but the recent software updates, I really dig them. Like, I even had a car before the traffic routes were colored for the whole path it takes. I really appreciate an update to know how the traffic is as part of your path, and also the alternative routes. But I've lately had some very odd routing. I think it's testing. It sends me somewhere to see if that's really faster, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do this. This is insane. I'm not gonna be a guinea pig for this. I'm not gonna spend 8 more minutes. Like this morning, it told me it's gonna be like I should arrive at 8:38, and it's like, oh, why don't you cross the river twice? I'm like, no, sure not. And then I was there at 8:30, so 8 minutes actually quicker than I would predicted it to be there. So I think it's working some things out with the alternative routes. I think it's still a little bit in beta, but I really like the visualization that they've chosen now. I think it's a big step forward.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And just wait till we get the FSD visualization with all the lanes and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, imagine how amazing
I already
that's
have
be.
enabled the extra visualization, and it's actually cool to see even like bike lanes and stuff. It recognizes that there's a bike there, so it seems like it's quite aware of many objects. It's this auto labeler of what a real object is.
It's all the wheelie bins. You see all the rubbish bins on the side
and the cones and stuff. Yeah. What I really wish it would do better here, which Toyota oddly does, is to read the traffic signs, like how fast it actually is, and override that what it has in its mapping data. many times it like if I have it in autopilot, or even in traffic aware cruise control, it just goes to speeds that it shouldn't go when I'm not like, because it thinks it's the 60, even though it's like a 40 zone here, especially King Williams towards Bayswater. There's a bunch of things that I know now, but it's like you just have to really, and I see that it knows that it's a 40. So yeah.
Yeah, well, the frustrating thing is if you drive in the country, when it often actually optically looks at the sign and it'll update what it displays on the screen, but in the city it doesn't change the speed. It doesn't speed up when it knows it can go faster, and it doesn't slow down. But if you go down south or up north, you're doing 110, you then approach an 80 sign, and it shows the 80 and it slows down, and then it gets to a 50 sign, and down south they go to a 40 sign, and it does all of that all by itself. You don't touch anything. Then as you drive through at the other end, it'll go up to an 80 and it goes up to 80, and if you hit the 110, it'll go to 110. But if you were sort of like trying to get more efficiency and you were doing 100 in the 110 zone, it'll go back to the last known speed that you were doing in that zone. And it's fully automatic, up and down, but only in the country. As soon as you get to like Albany or Bunbury or major town or a small city, it stops doing it.
Do you know why? I mean,
it's a policy. It's a Tesla. Tesla have decided, for whatever reason, that if they're in an area that's a city, that it just turns off. Just most places. There are some parts on Tonkin Highway where sometimes it'll speed up to the speed limit by itself in certain sections, or when Leach Highway turns into Tonkin Highway, I think it actually speeds up by itself, but it's only very restricted places.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it maybe because the autopilot was more or less designed to be more used on the highways and not really within the cities? Is that maybe where the philosophy
because you go through a small town and it's very skinny roads because they're old small towns, and it just doesn't care. It slows down and then it speeds up. And it's like Tesla just needs to have a policy that just if it knows what the speed limit is, just drive to the speed limit. Right. And the other policy it does is if you start your journey in a small town in the bush and you're doing 50, when it gets to the 80, it stays at 50 until you press if it's a Model 3 or a Y, until you press on the speed limit or you ratchet up. But once you've done that, so it doesn't automatically go up in speed for the first time, but when you've set the speed and it goes down in speed automatically, it'll then return to the speed automatically, provided you've already given it that speed at the start of the journey. So, it works. Pete and I saw this every time we went through a town. It would just slow down automatically and speed up.
How did you go in the country? I found in the crest of the hill, autopilot would always it wouldn't be phantom braking, it'd just be stop accelerating.
Slow down. Yes. Yeah. So if you drive, yes. So if you go, I forget the road, but it's on the way to Mundaring Weir, say from town, whatever that is, Kalamunda Road, or once you're in Kalamunda, you then go to Mundaring Weir on that winding road where it's got all those danger signs with a skidding motorbike, because that's where all the motorbike guys go to. Well, yeah, just go. Yes, and they all die because they go around a bend too quickly and whatever. And yeah, you're right, James. When you go on a crest, it'll actually hesitate, so it actually kind of slows down about 10, 20 k's an hour because it can't really see over the crest. But yeah, which is sort of like what a human can do sometimes if you're not quite sure what's on the other side.
It's frustrating. You can understand when it's a steep crest, but when it's just off camber,
yeah,
I guess it's going on. There could be a cow or something in the road. I better slow down. But it took a while to get used to that. Like, crest is coming up, getting ready to tap it.
Yeah, and it's a little idiosyncrasy that you need to do. Just like when you've on autopilot at night time on Tesla Vision, you got to do the tap tap push because you got to turn off. You got to turn off high beams as soon as you can, otherwise you blind people.
What I had to also get, so this little weird thing where you say like tap tap push. What I had to also now get used to it is on a previous car when you have to do like a kind of a S turn where you have to go left and then immediately right again. Like there are some of those roads that are kind of shifted. Is like on my Skoda, for example, I would do indicator left and then I could just push it all the way up and then it would indicate right. But here with the Tesla, I didn't understand. It's like first, if you push it up, it just cancels it. So you have to actually do it twice. I understand their design, but that's actually surprisingly that took me a couple tries. I turned a couple times without an indicator, where it wasn't quite clear to me that there's not an in-between stage. Like it would have to do that twice. In that, yeah.
Yep. Yes, and Tesla did that to save a couple of dollars on the mechanism, which is a good idea because it's one less thing to break. Because those catches. If if you push the indicator up and you turn the steering wheel the wrong way, you hear it clicking quite harshly because it's trying to cancel it, but you're holding it there.
Yeah.
So
it's just have to get used to it and know. I was like, it's just something. Why do I turn without turning? That's the only thing. Is like that feels different. But yeah, it's like as you said, you get used to it. But it's like cancel the auto high beam. I do hope they're gonna do something about it. I think there's a lot of people that are not quite thrilled about how it works right now. That's gotta be able to solve. But you also reckon that the cameras should have a lux, like how much light they receive. They should be able to have a cutoff.
Yes, no, they do. But the problem is, if you go in the country, and this happened to us all the time. You've got all of the marker posts with the little cat's eyes. You've got street signs. You've got all sorts of stuff, that's lighting up. And then you've got the faint red lights, the faint tail lights of a car in front of you, because you shouldn't have high beam on behind a car.
That's right.
But they come and go and they're not very bright. But then you also get distant headlights coming the other way, but they're not much brighter than the cat's eyes on the right-hand side of the road on those marker posts. So it's really hard for the camera.
The obvious solution, Harold, is what they did. It probably would have been over a year ago now. They applied AI to the windscreen wipers. They were terrible. They were as bad as the automatic headlights prior to this. I think they called it deep rain. And following the update, the windscreen wipers were much, much better. Now they've gone a step back again with the bugs setting them off, but they should apply something similar to the headlights to teach the headlights to differentiate between signs, reflectors versus cars. Surely they can do that. And surely this is just a matter of 3 to 6 months and an update will fix it.
And surely they should apply simple mapping that says if you're in a built-up area, by definition, you can't use high beams. Like, just don't even bother. Like,
that's right.
Don't turn them on.
Just the geolocation. I mean, they know when you're in the city. This is like the simplest thing. You just can't use it. It's absolutely it's a no. Like you just can't.
Yeah. Well, see, at least people watching this can't accuse us of being Tesla fanboys because, Tesla doesn't do everything perfectly. Clearly, they do most things really, really well, but
it's still the most brilliant car I've ever ridden. But it has its oddities, and at least there is the option that something will be done about it because there's a clear track record of changing things. Not always for the better, but in general, it is.
Well, as bad as the auto headlights are, the headlights are really, really good in the country at night. They are fantastic headlights, just the auto part is crap.
That's
right. Better than my 4-wheel drive with a light bar.
Yeah.
And going back to that Tesla fanboy comment, you can be a fanboy for no other reason but because you're drinking too much of the Kool-Aid, or you can be a fanboy because you objectively know it's the best product there is. And if you're a fanboy for the latter, then I think, all the power to you. And, I think we're in the second category.
Yeah. But we're also critical when it's appropriate to be critical,
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Constructively,
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, we know Elon watches this show all the time. And,
he's
Elon
been
does...
taking all throughout tonight, no doubt. Yeah.
Still don't know what you're doing with Twitter, Elon, but anyway, we'll leave it.
I don't know either.
We'll leave that. He did say that... Sorry?
If we're whinging, anyone here tall, the rear vision mirror in the Y, I know you can't see anything at the back, but it is so low, when I'm sitting to turn right, I can't see cars coming. It is right there. It blocks the entire where those cars coming across the road. You've got to a situation where you look left, I'm good to go, look right, there's no cars, and then you look up again, and this car magically appears from where your rear vision mirror is. It is right there in my eyes. So I can block a whole car. I mean, a few times I've been surprised, go like, nothing's there. Oh crap, where'd that car come from? It's literally hidden behind the rear vision.
Have you got your seat down to the lowest setting, James?
Almost, but lower than I'd want it. Just so I can
right, gotcha.
Underneath it now.
Yeah, right. I did actually see one of the Chinese websites had replacement rear view mirrors, but I don't know if that's because they were different shape or mount differently or something. But
I'd love to be able to just go up a little bit with the mirror, but you can't. Yeah.
Because remember, mirrors used to have two universal joints, so you could actually do that.
Yeah.
But the Tesla doesn't.
No, so always used to have to do it up.
The good thing, James, is that's the only mirror that doesn't have a motor with it. So, it's just, there's probably nothing stopping you from, customizing it, I think it's iconic.
Is that with a hacksaw, or what are you alluding to, Pete?
Take it off, buy another one, replace it with another one.
Yeah.
A shorter one.
No, that's a valid point, Jay. I never thought I'm not tall, so I've never had that problem. But I'll try and simulate it because I can just put the seat up.
Well, it is partially, but it's your height from your waist up.
Yeah.
Because how long your legs are really matter. It's from your waist up. So if you've got a tall upper body, then
Yes, I'm going to resist the urge to. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just not going to say anything else. I wouldn't say if you got a fat ass that it might be higher up, more cushioning, but I wouldn't say that. But yeah, it's a good point.
But you wouldn't be wrong.
But see, the cars aren't perfect, so they've got blemishes. So we're not completely unthinking when we say that these cars are awesome. Yeah, they're awesome, but James doesn't like his rearview mirror, which is a very good point. Cool.
Or the sunscreen. You do the sunscreen, you put it down, and when you drive and the sun's coming this way, you turn it that way.
Yeah, that's good.
Nowhere near long enough.
No, but you can pull it. No, you can pull it backwards.
Oh,
you can pull it back.
Yes.
So it comes on the.
Yes.
I was looking for the little thing that pulls out of it. Right.
Yeah, no, you can. It's actually telescoping, or not telescoping, but it withdraws, so it goes all the way to the back part of the door.
The pillar. Yep.
The pillar, right? Yeah.
It goes
all the. Yep.
That would have been handy last week.
Oh well, better late than never, James. Better late than never.
Yeah.
So there you go. Cool. All right. Well.
Learning.
That's it. Well, James just learnt something right at the end of the program.
Don't feel bad, John, because I drove for about 2,000 kilometres before Harold told me that all I need to do is press my finger on the time clock for it to change the time. But and by the time he told me, or by the time I asked, only about I would have gone back to the time that he was.
Yeah, later that day. That's right, because you're on Northern Territory time, all the way through Queensland, New South Wales, and Victoria, and Pete was just about to re-enter South Australia when he would have been on the correct time again. It doesn't matter. It's all good.
There you go.
Speaking of time, it's probably time we wrap this awesome show up. So, Pete, how would you wrap up a show like this today?
As always, stay safe, stay sustainable, and stay ahead of the curve.
And the best way to do that is buy a Tesla, join Tokwa, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Definitely look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. I'll be doing it from the sunny Gold Coast via a portable studio. Hopefully that'll work okay. What could possibly go wrong? But yeah, take care, everyone. Have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you next week on Ask Us Anything.
Have a good trip.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. See ya. Bye.